you're doing something else. You have to keep it open. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I often, my cloud is always full, but generally, I've take the cloud to the YouTube,
Yeah.
and so
And
yeah,
then you can delete them. Yeah.
yeah,
So that's what I'm going to do with this for you is so this will become a private course that you can go back and watch again and pick up. And it might be that initially, as you watch it through a few times, if you have the conviction to do that and it is setting that intention,
yeah,
you might find that every time you go back through, you pick up something new. Because as you learn, something in life will shift. And then when you go back and watch it again, you'll go, oh, yeah, I've done that, done that. And then something else will click in and then that will shift. And every time I do the same with another program I followed last year, and I still keep going back and watching bits and something else shifts. So it's about remembering, is it, I like to say it's like washing. Like they say, you wash, but it doesn't mean you stay clean forever. You have to keep washing. And it's the same with personal development, keep working on it. So welcome today, and thank you ever so much for joining me. And we're setting this up. I'd like to, oh, excuse my voice, sorry. I'd like to start by just covering a few bits we talked about in the one-to-one, so we capture them at the beginning of this as what I think could actually be quite measurable points. And I think they're quite important that later on, when you come back and watch it again, you'll understand what has shifted and how much it has shifted from learning this. But I would think if you're going to take a journey, remember we talked about journeys, the first thing to know is where you are now.
hmm.
And then it's like walking. Sometimes you can turn around and look back and go, oh, I didn't realize how far I'd come. And we can do the same with the emotions as well when we plot things from the beginning. So I'm just thinking back to when we talked the other week, you talked about family.
Hmm.
Or first of all, let's start with the self. So you talked about yourself in terms of feeling lost. And there were some emotions there that were just not quite sitting right, and you're just not quite sure where you're going with them. So I think recognizing that sensation of being lost was really powerful. And the fact that I remember you also saying that change starts with the self. And that is a
Yeah.
huge step forward already, in that a lot of people don't recognize that. And you are absolutely the right person who will gain a lot from this, just from that sentence. That tells me more than I need to know for that. So there was a sensation of loss because we talked about driving the bus, but again, it was like, yeah, but where's the bus going from and where's it going to? Otherwise, it's still lost. No matter if you even, no matter what you're driving, walking, sailing, you still need a start and end point. So that's the importance of doing this, like, where are you now moment. So with the self, with family, you talked about various relationships. So it's a case of, for you, I think an exercise to do after this would perhaps be sit and note down where you feel you are privately. And you can do that about different members of family, different friends, maybe even reflect back on relationships you've had, if they're people you're still in connection with, and how do you relate to them now. So there's lots of ways that we can use this feeling lost process and then finding a beginning and an end to this journey. Even we say an end point, it's the next point. Sometimes we get to the end of a journey and then realize it's actually the start to another journey. So it's just a
Mm.
waypoint. So sometimes there are waypoints along the way, like when people climb a mountain to the peak. And when they finally peak over the top point of the mountain, they realize there's an even bigger mountain ahead that they hadn't seen until they got there. So sometimes life can feel a bit like that as well. But more importantly is, what is this part of the journey and what is the next waypoint? And then from there, nobody can really guess beyond there unless you're sort of
Yeah.
supervisionary.
Sorry about
Sometimes we can see those steps. Like business plans is easier to go, right, map this point, that point, and know where you got to go on stepping stones. So you talked about, say, self, family, and you also talked about your life coaching. And I remember you saying how you have this kind of sense of not feeling like you can pay forward the life coaching when you're feeling like you are at the moment.
Yeah. Um, think Larry also said that to me. She says, if you're still feeling that you're emotionally so full of anxiety, and then how can you tell somebody else to
Mm,
to cope and so on, which I think makes a fair amount of sense. On the other side, it's my vulnerability also, but and I can often understand what they're going through, but if I am not, let's call it healed or whatever you want to call it,
yeah.
um, then I can't also had I also have made no attempt in the last 2 years to get any life coaching clients. Um, uh, if somebody would come to me, fine, but I obviously also don't attract anybody right now, and I don't really. I would love to do it, and
That's a
but I,
good thing.
it's and I like to combine it with the Pilates. I've done it before that I um taken Pilates, and then but I think the first one was my I called it a Kickstarter, and then the basic fundamentals, what you want out of life, where you see yourself, and just this straightforward. And I
Mm,
enjoyed it, but I felt I could give so much more if I could just open the door, like a door in me. And um, I mean, I tell people my story, uh, and depending if I had a glass of wine to drink or two or not, they get my whole story, or they get that's what I just masked up so nicely and put in a box, and they get just that masked up because I don't know how they would react to it. But that's not what I see in a coach. So if somebody would come to me in a situation where I was, and I still get plenty of people, um, and Hilary is one of them. I mean, but one time she seems to fully understand, and she said, I wouldn't even stand for this. How could you stand with this guy for 7 years, you know?
mm,
And yeah, well, I did. I'm not go away. I stayed with Sophie's dad after that for 12 years. And, it's like, yeah, today I also think, how could I have done that? The guilt is always there. It's not going to go away. And, but I done my best in that moment, what I could cope with.
yeah, exactly. And you've made the changes you needed to come away from that. Somehow emotionally, that part of you is kind of still back there and not catching up with where you are literally in life. You're in a new place, it's a safe space. You've got lots of opportunities ahead of you. You've got a great support system around you by the sounds of it. Emotionally, that is still catching up with you.
Yeah, I'm not doing anything with all this. I'm
Okay.
having all that. And people get cross with me that I have all this, but I'm not doing anything with it. I'm not showing up doing marketing all the time. And if I feel where I have a day, no, I can't do this. Which is most of the time just showing up in extreme tiredness, and then I hide. And it doesn't even mean that I can sleep or anything like this, but I hide. And this,
Yeah.
I always hate this feeling of when people say it's an anxiety attack. No, an attack is something when somebody hits you over the head, and that takes a whatever 20 seconds, and then the attack is over.
Mm.
That's you have when you have to brake suddenly because you're almost driven in the back of somebody. But
There's more a permanent level of anxiety.
yeah, it
Yeah.
comes, and I cannot tell you um, why it's there. Sometimes I know it's money or something like this, or something just triggered it, but it can stay there, and the trigger's long gone, and it still stays there for And that's when I hide, and you won't see me for the rest of the day if I've got it one, or I'll be very quiet in a meeting. And
Mhm.
and also then also too afraid to actually open my mouth because I might be just boring or stupid or not intelligent. All these markers or labels
Yeah.
which I got put on before in my life.
Okay. There is a lot there. That's great. Thank you. So that is a lot of how you're feeling right now.
Yeah.
And that is the now emotionally. We're looking at a map. That is how we can look at where you are now. So I'm going to ask a completely different question. How do you want to feel?
I want to jump out of bed in the morning and be excited to have this new day coming. I'm excited to have new clients and get new clients.
So motivated.
Yeah, I'm motivated to get my bike out of the and then or just go cycling for a route. I mean, I'm the master of making plans
Yeah.
and do this and do this, do this. I mean, I have the most organized outlook, most organized calendar with colors and everything like this. But to do this is another thing because and what I could when I was after we talked the other day, and I talked about, and I always see myself as lazy. And it's something I don't dare to say to people because lazy is not good. But I don't think I'm lazy because I'm actually an extremely hard worker. As my mother always says, she says, you're not a smart worker. You are a hard worker, with that she means
Yeah.
that I don't organize it or whatever and so on. And but I often, when I look at a certain phase of my life and we're the mummy group and everybody says, "Oh, can I help something or something?" else," I would stay on the couch because, and then I suddenly, when after that, I thought, it's not that I'm not lazy. It's I'm hiding away because if I'm not doing anything, then I also can't do anything wrong. So if I ask somebody,
But
can I help you, especially from the mummy group, because I thought they're all so far more sophisticated and when Sophie was small and so on, and had a super marriage and not living with an alcoholic and so on. If I would sit there, then I don't have to do small talk because I'm not good in this because I think I'm boring and not intelligent enough and blah, de blah, de blah. And then I can just stay there and I can't do anything wrong. And I'm a master of masking that I was just so intelligent what you're talking about, and I think, you know, I,
I'm hearing a lot of stuff in here. Right. Well done.
but that was the first time that I actually
But the
moved
question, yeah, and I
when
can,
so I am lazy. I'm lazy. I
right.
could work so
First
much
of all,
harder. I could do this. I could do this.
first of all,
Yeah.
can you tell yourself you are not lazy? I am not lazy. You may be going through some emotional things that are keeping you in a safe space, but you are
But
not
this is now
lazy.
for years. I mean,
Yeah.
this is
So
since I've been a child, basically.
yeah. So I like what you've said. There's a lot of language coming out in all the things that you are feeling right now. You've got some great words there for how you want to feel. And what I'm going to do is come back to these a bit later and we're going to interpret some more of those across into things that you can feel instead of what you are feeling. But first of all, what I want to do now is start on the actual workshop for you. So thank you for
Mhm.
that. That is a tremendous starting point, and that's really powerful because one day you're going to come back and watch this and go, oh my goodness, did I really feel like that? Because I don't feel
Yeah,
like
and
it now.
I know also, I mean, when I was fashion designer, many nights I worked through the night. And if something needs to get done, not so much in the moment,
Mm,
because I have more the opportunity to hide now, which I didn't have then.
mm. But that's that when we get that spark going and the motivation and the inspiration, and you have all the feelings of wanting to move forward, you will naturally lose the feelings of being lazy and stuck and not good enough, because they automatically fall away when you fill that space with new things. So at the moment, it's like you're in this space with all these negative things, and all the positive things are over here where you want to be. And as you move across, you will naturally just leave those behind. They won't follow you when we get this right. So we're going to start on the actual workshop part now. And so thank you for all of that. That's a really powerful conversation. I can't believe it's like 20 minutes gone already. So I'm not going to go too much into my backstory today, because I know you've already heard a lot of that. When I'm doing a public workshop, that would be a big part of my presentation at the beginning. So I know you're aware that, my son was not only where you are, but actually in a much darker place in terms of visions and hearing things and psychosis and suicidal depression, and at a point where I could barely see him at all in himself. Now I can see a huge gap between where you are and where you really want to be. But the first thing to recognize is that you want that. And that is, in a sense, goal setting and setting intentions to shift. And that's powerful, because a lot of people will sit in denial and say, no, I'm fine, I'm doing the right things, this is how I've always done it. And you're not. So you are already, just acknowledge that you are taking the right steps and you are mentally facing the right direction to do this. And you're a long way forward from where many people might be starting. So this is not necessarily going to be easy, but you will embrace this, and I know it. I can feel it in you. So my strategy that I'm going to cover with you today is what I call a non-psychology view of emotions. So I don't sit here and talk about big psychology jargon and big counseling strategies and so on. But what I will teach you is all very much about the core emotions. And so let's make a start. I'm going to share screen and put a presentation on for you. All right, I'm going to go with that screen first. This is my little turtle. And my little turtle reminds me, I'll just bring that down for a minute, reminds me, this is my business progress. And this every day is like having my mantra. Is for a long time, I had a little turtle that was on the beach and the water was out of view in the distance down the beach. And that's how I felt starting my business, like the success was just out of view. And I'd had that screen saver for about the last year. And then last week, I changed it to this, because I now feel like that success is now just in front of me. So that water to me represents the success. Once I am at a place where I feel like I'm truly succeeding, I'm going to put up one where the turtle is swimming. So that's my kind of visual reminder every day of where I am at on my journey, where I was, where I am now, where I want to be. So it's a rather unusual way to do it, but it's a cute reminder every day of my own journey.
Very cute.
So I'm going to present this for a minute like this. I don't know if you will see me on screen or not. I didn't check it to do so. Yeah. But so to say, for my son going through depression, it was at the night where I was sitting with him for 3 hours, talking him out of a pit of depression. He was talking suicidally. And that was when I realized that he couldn't understand his emotions because he couldn't see them. And so where did I begin? Where could I start to help him understand that? And the strategy that I came up with, which you've got in the book, which I have here on this diagram that I will use a bit today, and diagram will come up on screen, is what turned his life around. I'm just going to go back a bit because I've realized I've not started at the beginning. So for me, this strategy teaches us the power of being human. And every human being in the entire race, over the entire history of human beings, regardless of what has changed in culture, science, religion, everything else, from the original cavemen right through today, every single one of us has had the same emotional cycle. And so for me, studying isn't even about the present. I study everything that I see, hear, feel, everyone I interact with, things I watch on telly and radio, in the news, and history. I learn a lot from history as well, listening to music. So for me, the power of being human is where I've really niched down on that emotional cycle. And I've recognized that there are primarily three ways in which humans exist, or three places primarily, and that is at home, at work, and in education. And when we're not in these, we're classed as homeless, out of work, and uneducated. And there is a little bit more to this, but I'll cover that a bit further down the workshop. And already you've talked today about how you feel at home when you're hiding, and how that gives you a space to feel safe, but then you're not pushing to get out of that because of your feelings and your emotional place at the moment. We've talked about your work with your Pilates and your life coaching, and I would love to see that life coaching actually be a measurable part of your success from here, because I feel like you could probably bring in a lot more income with that as well. At least I'm imagining that's what you could see. So I think
companionship. So that's partially life coaching as well. It's like, and I love doing this. So that's one aspect.
Yeah.
Of that.
And then the other place, education, which as adults is things like this. The coaching is a form of education as well. Whereas for some things it might come under therapy, but for life coaching, it's more of an education in helping people learn how to live their life to the fullest. And I'm sure you've got a lot of models that you already know and understand that will come through your mind today, and things we talk about will kick into place, and you go, oh yeah, that makes sense now. And it will start to kick in for you, and you'll draw on your own experiences as you go through this. So that is actually my son, bless him. And any pictures that I ever use of my son are ones that I use with his permission. And there are only a few, so they get used a lot. But because of the journey he'd been through, and it is quite a lot for him to remember, and he tries not to remember it sometimes, he understands the power of what I teach off the back of what we went through. And so he does give me permission to use certain photographs, and any information that I share about him is stuff that he's agreed for me to share and make public. So I'm not talking behind my son's back. I am doing it with his knowledge. So this is the core part of what I want to cover with you today. And this is where most of the learning happens. And that is how to see the emotions through the emotional cycle diagram. And we are going to work through, and I always forget to get this card ready before I start, but there is a card I need here. Here it is. It just reminds me of the order of things. Right. So we are going to work through some key points on this diagram, and this is going to be probably the next 45 minutes to an hour. So if it gets too much to look at on screen, I can bring it off screen, because once you get the picture in your head, we can talk about it anyway. But first of all, I just want to point out that when I was talking to my son about how to come out of that depression, I wanted to draw his emotional language out in terms of these four colors. So we looked at how he felt for being happy, which is at the top, yellow, sad in the blue, angry in the red, and black at the bottom. And that was after sitting in the car for 3 hours that we then went in his flat to talk about this. And I just drew 4 boxes on a piece of paper and started to talk to him about these colors. And I didn't have color pens, so I just wrote the words in. And even that first night, the change in the engagement in conversation from him astonished me. Like, it was such a shift from the previous 3 hours to where suddenly he was curious about these emotions, that was one of the first steps that I will never forget that led me to getting here today. It's no longer 4 boxes. It's much sexier looking. It is much more dynamic. And it took me 3 years to really and truly prove every single concept I could think of about emotions to ensure that everything I could come across would fit on this diagram. And I wanted to make sure I couldn't break this, or I tried for a year out of those 3 to break this cycle. Because if I could break it, it wasn't worth teaching it. So I absolutely pushed my knowledge to the maximum over the first 3 years of developing this. And by that point, I'd then come up with further strategies as well, which are in the book, but I'd come up with further strategies to explain the orange sections, which are all about change. So what we're going to do today is we're going to work through each of these colors one at a time, and we're going to talk about your emotional language today and draw that out of you to see how you recognize each of these emotions in yourself and in a lot of the things we've already talked about. Oh, so excuse me if I shift now and again, it is back pain, but I'm waiting for my tablets to kick in.
All about that.
I'm waiting for my tablets to kick in. They will in a minute, hopefully. If not, I'll take some other ones. So do you have pen and paper handy at all?
Yeah.
Brilliant. Yay, that's good. So one of the first ones I want to do, I'm going to bring it off screen. Oh, actually, no, I'm going to talk through some little bits first, and then we're going to write some words down. So when we look at happy at the top of the cycle, we talk about happiness as being a high emotion, whether it's high vibration. So you don't have to write these bits down if you don't want, and it'll all be on recording, but there are some bits I do want you to write down in a minute.
Yeah.
So we talk about happiness as a high vibration, and it's that feeling where we feel like we're in the sun and we glow. We talk about glowing, which is associated with yellow or light colors. We talk about happy as uplifting, right? And if you imagine a football stadium and looking at the winning side when their team wins a goal, everybody in that stadium is going to cheer and go, yeah, like this, right? Now, we look at words, like we talk about uplifting and high, and we talk about things like sunshine and gold, which are warmth and rewarding and happy emotions. We talk about fluffy ducks and sunflowers, and everything seems to associate with the yellow. And as I studied this, I realized that the whole world over, everybody throughout history has used these 4 colors to describe emotions. So I've not actually created something here in terms of creating an emotional cycle. What I've learned to do is see the emotional cycle and draw what the human emotions already exist across the universe. So I learned to depict it. And so everybody talks about yellow, high vibrations. And when we're happy, our voice goes up as well. We get all excited and our voice goes up and our arms go up. And when we're cheering, yeah, right?
Yeah.
So everything about the voice, the body language, the words and the descriptions of the colors all fit that section of the diagram, like literally. And everybody, every human being in the world is naturally driven to seeking happiness. Now, some people, and you'll need this and get this with your life coaching, some people will seem to think that they don't deserve happiness. They will feel like they are stuck somewhere else. And I know right now you're feeling some of that. Like that happiness feels like it's out of reach up the top there because life has got heavy. And that is why on the bottom it's very different and low and heavy and depression. And so what we're going to do now is I'm going to ask you to write down some of the words that you use that you can think of, or as much as you can think of. And again, this is great for coaching as well, where you can describe your world in happiness. And the feelings, even the feelings you want to feel or things you remember from the past. But how do you describe all of the feelings in your world up in that top yellow section? And it sometimes includes quotes as well. Sometimes things that we say, like little quotes, memes and mantras. So I'm going to give you about 2 minutes for this.
Okay.
And I'm going to come off screen share for a minute just to take the colour away from my eyes for a moment because it's very bold. How are you doing there?
Okay. Don't know if I'm doing it right, but
I was going to say, you're so busy writing away, I hadn't stopped you because you look like you really got a lot to let out.
so you want me to just read it out?
Yeah, that'd be good. Yeah, start going through them.
I wrote there: laughing, dancing, exercise rush, sunshine, music and driving in the sunshine, teaching people and feeling from their energy, walking in nature, physical feeling free and light, jumping with joy, cycling to the top of the world, singing even when out of tune, cuddling up with a soulmate and physically feel the love from within.
Wow. How does that feel reading that out?
I can feel it. It's like it feels great.
Yeah.
it's sort of partially, I feel it really right here, like almost like my whole heart opened.
Wow.
But at the other side, so my limbs are going immediately like pulling everything back, and I feel almost like I'm have anxiety in my limbs. It hasn't reached my brain yet, but in my limbs.
But you can open the heart thinking
Yeah,
all of that. And then we're going to gradually tell the rest of the limbs to feel safe and not panic until that feeling can expand.
yeah,
So that might be something. And normally people just list words. The fact that you've written all that out is absolutely beautiful. I would urge you to type that up or print it out or stick it up somewhere where you can read that every day. I actually think that would be a really good exercise to put that
yeah,
somewhere to read every day. And this is not normally part of the workshop, but that is so incredible. And that it makes you feel so differently so quickly. There's something in there for you. And this is part of the process of recognizing that is actually a list of things of where you want to be.
yeah. And I think part of it is also like um because I would like to run again or go for long walks, but waiting for my double knee replacement, um,
Yeah.
I feel a lot of has been taken away from me over since I'm here, because that's just the two time frames just came together that my knees just got so worse bad. And so in the last 4 years, I felt more and more, but it suited me to at the beginning, I still walked a lot, like 5K and so on, but now I can't walk 5K. I can cycle 100K.
at,
That's
at
fine.
the moment. But even if you could walk a half, that would be better than nothing, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Even if
But
you could do a half.
feeling in every step, the pain is
Yeah.
reminding me every single time that,
So it creates avoidance to
yeah, yeah,
not endure the pain. But yeah, so at the moment, even though you're not able to do it now and it will be painful with a knee replacement for a while, you can still tap into that feeling of what it will be like when you can get there again, because that's going to drive you through and out the other side of the whole process by having a vision and a goal the other end. And you
yeah.
talked about money there as well. So is there anything you can add to that about how you would feel if money was no issue and you had all the clients you need, if you had all of the rest of it, how would the money feel as well?
It would set me free. It would, I would,
Yeah.
um,
Abundance.
yeah, like I thought this morning, for example, because I've got Ross's car, borrowed Ross's car in the moment, or Larry lent it to me, because it's easier for me than going to Bath in the train and without
Okay.
lifts and up and down the stairs and so on. So, and I came back last night, and this morning, what's today? Today is Tuesday, so I came back on Sunday. But this morning I took the car and drove to the gym, and which normally I would take the bus, and that takes like 20 minutes, and then you walk another 5 minutes, which I don't enjoy. And then I love going to the gym and weight train, and it was such a difference. And then I got in the car and I thought, I have to um, be ready that that it's not my car and might be taken away again. And ideally, I wouldn't want that car because it's quite old and bumped up or something like this. But it starts fine.
But it was the process of getting in the car.
Yeah,
It was like a sense.
and I thought, how
Yeah.
would I feel if that would be taken away again? And I thought, why is that not enough motivation for me to come out of my
Yeah.
little rock and out underneath out of my little cave and show up all the time? But that is terrifying to do that, because I have to do it. What if I'm not doing it? Then, and for me, it meant all the stuff coming back. Oh, what if I don't have enough money for petrol or for the insurance or for this or that or something? and which are many times over I didn't have in the past in South Africa. So, but I always had a car because you need. But
Yeah.
it's there came a whole sort of fear, and I thought the fear
Yeah.
more than the motivation.
Yeah. And I can see a lot going on here, that you are very quickly moving in every conversation we have here from what looks amazing, feels amazing, and then you're ending it by talking about all the loss.
Yeah.
And you're automatically moving. So that feels great, but my limbs are pulling in. I had a car, but what if I lose it? And you're automatically going from how you want to feel in the yellow to the one we're going to talk about next, which is the blue. And I'm seeing you living very much in the blue.
Which
And
is stupid because
for it.
it's like drama is the last level of focus, isn't it? I mean, and yeah, I'm sick
Yeah,
of
some people are
drama.
more in the red. Some people live in the red, they get aggressive and angry, and then they usually end up in prison. Whereas anxiety and panic and fear, the other side tends not to the same way. But the people who are naturally pushed towards the red, because somehow in our body's chemistry, we do react differently to the same triggers. And I know for me, there are some triggers that happen where I'd go, oh, and panic. But my son was more the kind of person who'd go, oh, I'm going to, whatever he was going to do. And he'd get really angry. And he was quite an aggressive personality. So I had to learn a lot to deal with that in him, and actually kind of put myself in the red, but a point where I could be dominant and like keep him grounded and not go off pop with his anger. So there was a lot going on there, but that's going a bit off track. So I'm seeing here where we're going definitely into the blue a lot. And I want to get you talking more in that yellow, where you talk about it, feel it, and stop. So as much as your thoughts are going into the others, I want you to stop and go back to that yellow place as your goal. And remember, that's where your goals belong. Now, something else was pointed out to me recently about structure and planning, but we'll come to that when we get halfway through this. So we're going to throw a few more words back at you that I've got listed here from previous workshops. So when we're talking about the yellow, we've got things like joy, fun, and if there's any extra words here that fit with you that you think, oh, I like that word, then write them down. If not, stick with the word you have. But joy and fun, silly, because you talked about playful earlier, and I like that one. But
I love being silly.
yeah, I like the word playful. That's a nice one.
My mother always used to say, and she says it still now, and she even said it to my last husband, when I get silly, she says, oh, when Christiane gets silly, then she has to go to bed because that means that she's tired.
Okay, so how do you interpret silly? What kind of behavior is silly for you?
Laughing a lot and banter and it doesn't matter if what I joke about and something like this and a joke comes back and then you laugh uncontrollably, this really belly laugh and so on. And it's just such a good feeling.
Oh, that's amazing. And when was the last time you did that?
Yesterday.
Oh, okay. That's good. That's
But
good.
we were at breakfast at my daughter and my other daughter, and so but the only one listening was my missing was my 19-year-old because she doesn't do family in the moment. And in any case, I was saying I had this a lot with a Renault, and both my girls looked at me like, with a what? And said, with a Renault, what's that? And Lena said, I seriously didn't know what you meant. Well, it's a car. It's the car I was driving, wasn't it?
Oh, the Renault. Even
And Sarah says, well, we're in England here and not in France. And I thought to myself, but you want me to say, oh, you're saying all my German words in English, which is also not correct. So anyway, we laughed a lot about it. But
yeah, I hadn't asked you where you're from.
I was born in South Africa. After half a year, my parents went back
Yeah.
to Germany. I then lived there 21 years grew up, done my
Wow.
nursing, my A-level nursing.
Sorry, now you're saying that you did, yeah.
And then I went to South Africa for 38 years, and I came back here on the 6th of December 2020.
Wow. So you've got a good cultural mix in there as well.
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. What an experience. But yeah, brilliant. Yeah, so you did tell me about South Africa and
Yeah.
Germany and everything. You did run through that. Um, brilliant. So where do we get to? So silly and playful. So it's great that you've got that. You know you can be there. But that's a different feeling, isn't it, to the ones that you're reading out when you wrote your words
Yeah.
with yellow. And it's a different feeling internally as opposed to having that interactive laugh with others. And it's for us, we want to get you feeling like that yellow part at the end of the day, even when you're not around others. So you end your day feeling like,
And I
oh,
like
that was
playful
amazing.
because it makes me happy, but playful is for me very difficult. And again, I think that comes from my mum because my mum always used to, was the worst thing for her to play. I used to always say, oh, you can come over and to South Africa and you can play with Sophie or you can play with the girls or something like this. No, I don't do play.
Oh,
So
goodness.
I find it very difficult. My sister is much better in this. She's 3 years younger. Um, to actually sit down and play. I found it very difficult with all my children. Now with Penny and with Ava, who's now in Australia, I had her often with me until she was 4. We played together and we were silly. We are silly together. Like yesterday, we cuddling her and blowing
Wow.
raspberries and chasing her and crawling through the house and so on. That is almost something which, oh, I can do that. I can catch up on that again.
Yeah, that's lovely. That is really lovely. Um, and that you've not taken that narrative of can't play and you've actually gone, do you know what, I enjoy playing. And that's nice that that's one of the things, recognizing how you can make your own choices and be unique and individual and do what you love doing. So that's really great. So we can bring more into line with that.
And not taking yourself too seriously. I think that's
Yeah.
something what I sort of,
Now it's funny you say that, and yet all the things you've said so far are in when we first started about where you are now, almost sit in the things that you do take seriously about yourself at the moment, but how you want to make them lighter. But that will all come out. But anyway, let me just keep running through these words because we've got 2 hours left and we're still on the first color at the moment. It's quite a bit to cover. You're right. I have to kind of keep watching the clock and gauging my time to make sure you get the most out of this. So silly, playful. And when we're talking about the higher words, floating, we've got delighted, relaxed, and that will be what we've also got to remember is this yellow can shift towards the blue or towards the yellow like a dial. So yellow feelings that are leaning towards the red are different than ones that are leaning towards the blue.
yeah,
So blue is like higher, thoughtful feelings, and that's relaxed. Top of the world is obviously the middle, feeling high, but that can also be linked to addictions as much as it can
yeah.
be. We want to feel naturally high, like the feeling you kind of got when you read that statement out. And that's why when you create that feeling, even by reading something every day, the rest of you will start to fall into place with that, like a mantra. And honestly, I'm really overwhelmed by how you managed to write your own mantra out so quickly. It's like that was a perfect start that should have come at the end. You can tell you've
I
done the
think I've
right
done
thing.
it often enough.
Um,
Like how
yeah,
I feel and
yeah. And when we talk about people who walk in a room and they light up the room, that's
yeah,
people who walk in with that energy that's so open that they just walk in and they exist. They exist because everything's perfect in life. They haven't come in the room to hide or to mingle or to upset other people and to bitch and backstab. They've come in to just be, and they
yeah,
light up the room, and I love that. And I want to see you there as well. I
yeah.
know
I'm
you've
not
got
very
that in
good.
you.
I actually discovered also a while ago that when I walk on a pedestrian way, I always walk close to the wall.
Oh,
not in the middle.
okay. We're going for the middle. That's going to be measurable target now. Going
Yeah.
for the middle.
And so often, I open for everybody the door and let them go through first.
Yeah.
I go out of the way if somebody wants to go past me. And I keep on saying,
So
"Mhm."
you're kind of moving into the shadows to let other people be in the sun.
Yeah. The only time I'm not doing it,
Yeah.
when I was car racing, or was in my car and ultimately racing, um, but also on the racing track. And
Wow.
um, and when I'm cycling, yet I'm forced most of the time because I lost a lot of my fitness in the last year, so I'm then the end of it. But
Yeah. But that makes sense. When you're car racing, you're in it to own your place
yeah,
and not to let other people. In a car racing, you don't join a race to step out the way and go, that's all right, I'll let you through. So you step into that place as a
also I
competitiveness.
don't. I
But
don't
we,
want to be left behind. I don't want to be stupid, look stupid, um, and yeah, there's a lot of jumping over my own shadow and give myself the middle finger up and so on.
so
And
next time you walk into a room, walk into the middle and just see how different it feels.
yeah,
Instead of walking past everybody else, just walk in and feel into that and see how everybody else reacts around you. And you'll probably find they react differently to you as well. And there's not
yeah.
in an arrogant sense of, oh, hi, look at me, not one of the big flamboyant type of people that walks in and owns the room. That's different.
I had a thought just now because
Yeah.
normally I would say to you now that because I put on 10 kilos since I arrived here, and I'm not happy whatsoever. If I see myself on a photo or something like this, I actually want to print them all out as a here, to get your act together. But and then that's why I normally say, oh, that's why I rather hide, or I'm not going to these things because I don't enjoy what I look like. But
Yeah.
then on the other side, by stepping into the middle, the way I look now is the best motivation
There you go.
to get my butt into gear.
But you've straight away
I'm
gone from
already in the
owning,
middle.
but again, you've straight away gone from owning the room to worrying about your weight and gone back to the blue again.
Hmm.
So apart from a couple of life next words, I think it's going to be a powerful lesson when we move on to this blue. I think
Yeah,
there's a lot to uncover there. But do you see what I'm seeing here?
yeah.
That you are talking about all the things you want to do, how you want to feel. You're talking about your behavior, how we can change that, and you're going straight back to the blue.
Hmm. It's safe there.
Try and pause it. It's safe there at the moment, but it's more fun when you change it.
Yeah.
And remember, there's a different place between safety and fun. And we want to get you out there. It's not necessarily even fun, but feeling more open, feeling lighter, and like you can step into the sunshine again emotionally.
It's not even safer. I really safer there. It's like I always say, I feel like an insect. People just want to like chuck away or something like this. That's not safer because the next person steps on you.
And yet you go out and walk in nature, and that's life. But how about if it's they try to step on you, but you're not, you're so big in yourself because you grow as yourself, they don't have the opportunity to step on you because you have resilience, you have boundaries, and you have this kind of glow around you that gives you a sense of safety, even when you are stepping out in that sunshine. So there's a lot we can do here to work on this, and there's a lot of inner narrative with you, which I'm sure as a life coach you would understand when you hear it in other people,
Hmm.
that your narrative is going from, yeah, where I am, where I want to be, and going straight back there. And it's powerful because it's teaching us a lot today. So it's not wrong. It's no way wrong what I'm hearing from you. It's a recognition of what I'm hearing from you in terms of seeing it, like we said, the map on that bus. Where's the bus telling you are now, or the sat nav, whatever. And you're planning that journey and you keep thinking about that place you want to be, but then your thoughts are straight away coming back to where you are now. And I get it, because that is where you are now. And that's where we want to move that. I don't know whether you like to keep using the analogy of the bus or whether you would rather it be something else, or the bike, you know, whatever you.
I like the idea, or the bus or the car or whatever, you know, that
Okay. So, right, we're going to move on a little bit. So we talked about light up the room, golden trophies at Belinda, ecstatic, over the moon. So we talk about things like over the moon as well, which is, again, over the moon is not only an uplifting feeling, it's an extremely high feeling. Wow, over the moon, like you're out there in space. So this is sort of the extreme descriptions as well as those that, like, yeah, I'm feeling a spark, you know, which means there's a hint of happiness in there. And you have a spark when you're talking about your fitness and your coaching. So there's a spark, and that's the little bit that's just coming out of the middle there, right through to over the moon at the top. So that's the yellow. And we'll come back to the yellow at the end and just top up some bits where it meets the red and blue, or we'll pick them up as we go through. So the next one we're going to do is the sadness. I'm just going to pop it back on screen for a minute so I can talk about it. There we go. So when we're talking about the sadness, we have, first of all, the words that we use, like feeling sad. We talk about blue, feeling blue, or blues music, for example. And we also use a lot of terminology in the English language. And that's something I haven't said actually so far. There are over 6,000 words in the English language. That's without the other languages you know as well. But 6,000 plus words that describe emotions. But nobody ever knows all 6,000 words, apart from maybe a few elite people. And do we need to know all 6,000 to know how we feel? And quite honestly, just to understand these 4 core emotions is powerful in itself, the happy, sad, angry, and depressed, and to see the dynamics. But to just add in those extra words that we use in our own emotions and our own emotional language gives us the power to navigate around this map. So that is why we're working through these in terms of words, your language. So with the blue, we talk about emotions as water, and we say that emotions flow like water, which is blue. We also talk about thoughts as air, and air is blue, the sky is blue. So for this, when I hold up can you actually see me on the screen if I hold this up?
Yeah.
So when I hold this up, I've got a line across the middle, and let me turn it up the right way. Let me do it that way, right? So we've got a line across the middle, and everything above it is positive and everything below it is negative. So in the blue, the positive is all the thoughtfulness, although thoughts go right the way through. But imagine it as air and water. And we like to float in the air, and we say cloud 9 over the moon. But when we talk about things like emotions, we're drowning in our own tears, it's a sinking feeling. You know, like when we talk about can't breathe, when you're having anxiety and it is panic attacks, there's that sensation of not being able to breathe properly as well. And you go, and it is almost like you sometimes find yourself holding your breath and then realizing, oh, you know, and it's this panic is very much linked with the breathing autonomy, you know, the subconscious patterns that go on in the body as well. And that is because when you imagine you are underwater and you can't breathe, or somewhere where your breath is taken away, we get that sense of panic, because the panic is telling us we need to become in a safe space. We need to escape and get to safety. But at the same time, having the emotions that are the same gives us that sensation of not breathing, and we hold our breath when we don't feel safe, almost as if we're underwater, but not quite to that extreme. but the feelings that we get with it are just as much, if not more. And so all of that anxiety, the fear, the panic, and the sense of loss and everything you're talking about, you want, but what if you don't get it? I've had it, but I've lost it. I think about it, but then I think, what if I don't? And all of that language for you is bouncing up and down in here. And it's like you're trying to swim and fly, but somehow something's pulling you back down into that depth again. And I'm hearing a lot of that language in you in this section, which is really powerful. But it's great that you've still got stuff in the yellow, that you're able to laugh and smile and have those feelings. So you are not a worst case scenario. I have once met somebody and I did an emotional profile on her. And I'm not kidding you. Everything this woman talked about was in the blue and the black. There was nothing over this side of the diagram at all. And believe me, I know it feels awful and this is not gaslighting, but there are people who lose this yellow and the red altogether in terms of emotions. And that is very difficult to help them from here. But you have so much power in you to deal with this and to change this. I know you are going to be up there before long, and probably quicker than you realize from here. So this is great. So when we talk about all the words with the blue and the feelings that we get, so it's recognizing all the feelings, like when you read that yellow piece out, you said you felt it here and felt like your heart was open. But when we're thinking about the fear, the anxiety, the stress, like being oppressed, almost like it's like in water, but like someone's pushing you down, and like you are being held back. And so all of that is recognizing how it feels in your body as well, that tension, the goose, but sometimes it's like fear where you get goosebumps as well. And so being aware of all of the feelings that you get that go with the words and the thoughts that sit in this side. And when we talk about body language as well, so instead of being up here and the voice going up, the voice comes to more neutral and like, and even with our body language, we're like, yeah, chin up and head goes up when we're excited. But when we're sad or afraid, we tend to like pull away a little bit. Like if somebody says something and you're a bit worried about it, you go, And even just subtle movement of the head can be enough, especially when you're watching other people in your coaching, just enough to tell you, that person's got anxieties or fears about that. So you start to learn to see this diagram in their movements. And it could be subtle things, or like you see somebody reach for something and then they pull away a little bit. There's some anxiety going on. The slightest little things like this, where it's pulling away and moving backwards. So if you imagine it forward and backwards from red to blue. So any movement where they pull away is like a retreat, a fear and anxiety, or it might be a consideration. Actually, that's quite dangerous. I'm not going to do that. Might be a responsibility part, but that's, you'll learn to tell the difference in yourself. And as you see this in yourself, you'll see it in others as well. And honestly, even just watching people around you, you will start to see everything with these colors in your head and the dynamics. So we're going to do another couple of minutes where I ask you to write down all of the things that you can think of that you would associate with all of that, with the blue.
Okay.
I'm going to watch the clock. I'm going to turn it off. Wait a sec. I'm going to go and get a cloth for my glasses.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, well done. Brilliant. Right, I'll let you read it out.
Keeping the head above water, being a survivor or surviving, feel like a failure, kicking water in the storm, stay in my cave, not going outside, being lonely, being an introverted extrovert, wanting to be left alone but needing people.
Brilliant. Yeah. How does that feel reading that out?
Like my life.
That feels like where you are.
Yeah. For years and years and years and years. People always used to say to me, "Oh, you're a survivor," but not in a positive way.
It's like you're barely staying afloat, but you're not out of the water. Yeah. It's like treading water, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
So you want to be on dry land.
Yeah. But often it was more meant like, oh, you land somewhere then where you justly survive, meaning like a cuckoo in somebody else's nest. And then you're surviving, but you're not having your own, and because you're afraid to do that.
Yeah.
And so I got told also by every single one of my relationships, without me, you end up in the gutter. You will never achieve anything, and so on.
So imagine you are at the beach and you've swum out into the water. What's stopping you from swimming back to the beach and going laying on your sunbed with a nice drink?
If there are people who I don't like.
You can swim around them.
Yeah.
What's stopping you? What's stopping you if you've gone to the beach and swam into the water a little way and you're just out of reach of the floor? What's stopping you from swimming back?
Nothing really, only myself.
Yeah, your own thoughts, feelings, and beliefs.
Yeah.
Are you ready to swim back?
Yeah.
Good. All right. Brilliant. So that is really good, actually, again, for recognizing that difference in feelings and then going back to reading the other one as well, where you want to be. And maybe even write down that analogy about the, well, but you'll get it on here, the analogy about the beach. So ones I've got written down as well, which some we've covered, thoughtful. We've got tearful, because tears are water, and very often when it's in the blue, that's the place where we sit and cry and have feelings of tearfulness. I just wanted to let it all out. But actually that can be a good thing, because tears to me are a release. Like happiness is all the dopamine, endorphins, serotonin, all of the happy chemicals. But sadness is linked with the cortisol and the fear and the stress and anxiety, whereas adrenaline comes with the aggression on the red side. So all of those negative chemicals, unlike fighting adrenaline out at the gym, cortisol is actually released through tears. But there are other ways to release it as well. And at the moment, with all the anxiety that you're talking about, there is very high cortisol levels going on with those panic sensations, your limbs tight. And we want to better get you relaxing again. And you've got all the strategies with all of the techniques you do. You've got so many strategies there. It's getting you in touch with them in a way that it expands through all of you. So tearful, anxious, drowning, we said, sinking, cold. Some people feel cold there. Or you say that's the part of the lonely bit. Can't breathe, panic, chilled. So actually chilled is a nice one, because it's like if you're out in that water, but you're not yet ready to go back to the beach,
you just chill out there.
Why not just float? Or grab a dinghy.
Because thoughtful and chilled,
a life ring, and just float
they're
on
not necessarily bad, aren't they?
Yeah. So being in the blue is not necessarily bad, and we don't expect you to suddenly go, oh yeah, that's it, I feel happy now. But it might be recognizing, I feel like I'm sinking, grab hold of a dinghy. So that is things where like mindfulness, meditation, exercises, doing mantras, like reading through things like this, are all those little bits that help keep you afloat, like grabbing hold of an inflatable or something.
Yeah.
Or climbing into a dinghy. But, you know, it's just using these analogies to take your feelings on that journey. Because physically we know how to do it easier than we do emotionally. But when we can literally translate emotions into that same type of journey, it's, well, what tools would we use if we were doing this for real? And I think it's really powerful. Like I said, for me, I use so much visualization, because to me, helping to see emotions in any form is powerful over just sitting with these sensations and feelings that make no sense. And if we can make sense of them, there's room to heal them. So we got chilled, which is floating. There's also icy, or like some people, ice maiden, and that's the ones who have decided they're stuck there. Like the person who doesn't do happiness anymore, and they're so cold emotionally. It's like they've gone over there. They've kept themselves afloat from depression and grief, but they've kind of locked themselves over in the blue in this really icy place. And you know, they're like the old lady characters with the walking cane in a lot of the TV dramas, aren't they? When nobody can get through to them or make them smile or warm their heart, and they're just who they are, and they've been so resilient without any knowledge, and they've just learned to just lock themselves over there and survive and kind of keep everybody else out, this safe space around them. Nobody gets in my space, nobody affects my emotions, and I am who I am. And I love those characters in the movies, but it's not good to be there in real life. Yeah. But they do make for a dynamic cast. So another one is like somebody who kind of accepts that life puts them there, says it never rains, but it pours. That's another one.
Like resign, no.
Never rains, but it pours. And that's like somebody who's manifesting everything to happen there. When we talk about manifesting and we ask the universe to help us and we ask for what we want, that happens whatever we say. And that's one of the biggest things I've learned from Rory's last year is everything is manifesting, he says, everything. Because if you're not manifesting good things, you are manifesting everything else. And when we say things like, oh, never rains, but it pours, then everything is going to keep pouring on us. But if we say, oh, do you know what? Life's amazing. It's abundant. I'm happy. Then more of that will come too. And so that's why I want you to keep reading that first paragraph, because that was amazing. I love that. So stormy, under the weather, blues music, no spark, because when we say somebody, you know, you've lost that spark, it's because you can't light a flame underwater. So we need to be able to, but you have a bit of a spark there. But that comes around to a next part of the lesson on the red in a bit. But you have a spark there, and we're going to use that. And we're going to find a way to light that up more. Contemplating is another good one I like. So where you're going into yellow, talking about things, you're going back into deep thought, but it's all fearful, panic, anxiety thought. But what if we can move that into contemplating? So instead of thinking, what if I lose it? What if I get to have this for myself? What if I get to have a car one day? How will it be when I can afford a car? What car am I, even moving that further, what car am I going to get when I get all these clients? Right? And actually start moving into contemplating curiosity about what if.
Yeah.
So instead of what if negative, make it what if something positive. And every time you catch yourself going into the negative, I want you to stop yourself and go, oh, but what if the opposite, and be positive with it.
Yeah. I like that. Just turn it around.
Yeah. And you don't have to necessarily, that's the one, turning around. So it's not even about moving from where you are right now. It is turning the bus around so you're going in the right direction.
Yeah.
But you can't turn the bus in the right direction, drive the bus to where you want if it's going the wrong way. So I like that one, turning the bus around first and then drive the bus to where you want. That's a good one. Thank you. Well done.
Just this morning.
Yeah. Did you hear that song that I played in a meeting the other week?
What, sorry?
Did you hear the song that Oliver played in the meeting the other week?
Yeah.
That was all about turnaround, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And I felt, for me, I'd visioned for a long time, like my son had found this brick wall. That's why I had that picture of him sitting by a brick wall. Because we actually took that photograph on purpose after he'd come through his journey and was feeling better. And he posed for that photograph for me. And it's actually, believe it or not, we lived somewhere else then, but it's literally in view from my house now. So I live right near it now. It was almost like meant to be. But for me, I was visioned to him. It was like he'd found some brick wall, was facing it and going, that's it. I can't go anywhere. I can't do anything. The whole world's against me. And it's like this brick wall was his life. And it's like everybody else was behind him waiting to help him, but they couldn't until he just turned around and went, I need help.
No, I can actually visualize that also.
Yeah.
The brick was not necessarily the life. The life is when your knees give in and your arms give in, because anxiety and so on feels like you have no more power in your, I would say you have no more power in my biceps or anything like this. And you just go like a spineless, boneless, like into jelly, like at the bottom, and you're just like a blue puddle.
That's when you've gone beyond floating to sinking and there's just no sensation of gravity or
Yeah.
weight. And yeah, wow. Yeah.
And that's my life, not the wall behind it. The wall is, I have to go through this wall to get through my life.
Or around it.
Yeah.
Or maybe the wall is taking you in the wrong direction.
Mm.
Maybe the
Like
wall
a maze.
is stopping you from going further than you need to go. You need to turn around and go the other way. What if the wall is not even what you need to get through?
Yeah.
Let's just take the wall out of it altogether. You don't need it. You're never going to get anywhere facing a wall. So yeah, it makes sense. But yeah, for him, when he realized all he got to do was turn around and just forget the wall and go another way, that was it. Massive changes in him really, really quickly. And yeah. So yeah, we got all of those. And the other one, Emma, who I did this with the other week, another lady, she talked about it being like a glass lift. So she felt like she was in this lift where at the top it's all the happy things and at the bottom it's dark and cold and lonely in the lift. But it's like she's isolated in the lift and can see everything outside of it. But in her own little world in the lift, it was lonely and shut off. And the lift just went down and down into darkness. And I thought that was a really nice way of describing it as well.
Yeah.
How she just actually, all she got to do is push some different buttons and take the lift back up again. But it's about the choices we make. But we'll come to that in a bit, the choices. I can't believe how quickly time's flying. But well done. So how do you feel after doing the second one?
Good. Yeah, it makes sense that it's not only negative.
Yes. So if we would go back to one of the things you said at the beginning, you feel like you said I feel like I'm afraid to speak.
Yeah.
What if you did speak and people listened? What if you did talk to people and they listened? So it's about taking that phrase and turning it around to a possibility. That's the turning the bus around. You said that when you are in this space, it feels like people are cross with you for being there. And it's like this feeling of being judged.
Yeah.
But what if people accepted you for who you are? What if people loved you for who you are? What if you made them feel happy? So when you catch yourself saying these things that you've that you'll catch them when we go back. You go back on the replay at the beginning, but it's taking those words and phrases and having a look at what you could put in as an alternative that's a positive possibility. What if something positive happened?
Yeah.
You can't do this. You've said, I feel like I can't do this. What if I can do this? What if? Maybe you can't, but what if you could? So what if you could become a great life coach? And what if it made other people happy and it helped them turn their life around? And what if your experiences helped other people to overcome theirs? How does that feel if you was to say them? And it'd be nice if you try saying them. How would it feel saying them?
It feels great. I mean, what if I'm going to be successful? What if I'm earning all this money that I don't have to be on benefits or anything like that, you know?
Yeah, brilliant. So that's the first stage of turning that bus around. What if? And then when you start to say those what ifs, and then you start to actually feel into them, the one that I want you to work towards after that is a next step is I am. Or I can do this. I am smart enough. I am exciting and lovable and engaging to talk to, not boring, but I am exciting. I am happy. Right? I can talk to people. I do talk to people. So it's all that I am, I can, I do. And those are all the things that take you from the I'm not, I can't, this doesn't happen into what if up to I can, whatever. And these are steps that shift your energy as you say them. And because as you, and this is one of the things, how can you expect other people to believe in you if you don't believe in yourself? But what if you believed in yourself? How would other people feel about you?
Yeah, that's the thing, you have to work on yourself first, and your whole aura changes, and your whole, as per how people look at you, will change because you believe in yourself. You have that self-confidence and self-esteem around you.
Yeah. And I think you're almost, well, I think you are ready there right now to say, I believe in myself.
Yeah.
Are you ready to say it?
I do believe in myself.
Yay. Yay. And the rest of it will catch up when you say that. And when you change this narrative a little bit to use the language that's in the place you want to be on this emotional cycle diagram, the rest of you will catch up with that. And even turning the bus around and driving it is believing in yourself that you are going to create change, believing in yourself that you're going to make this happen. And honestly, yeah, I'm excited to see the changes in you in the coming even in the next couple of weeks. I know I can see this change coming, but it will require you to work on yourself every single day on saying these things. So getting some mantras and quotes and saying, like even reading that paragraph every day for the next couple of weeks, I think you will feel so different. So all the things I had planned to create for you, you've created your own in that first one. And I think I'm just going to stick with that for now. It was brilliant. Right. So the next one, honestly, I'm impressed with this. The next one is, do you need a 5-minute break or anything? No? Okay. Let me know if you do, because we're like halfway through. So if you do need a 5-minute break at any point, let me know. So the next one we're going to do is the depression. And I know some of this is definitely going to resonate with you. And I know some of it is going to fit more with things you have been through in the past. And I think there is going to be some element of this for you now. So if anything triggers, just accept it as recognition and learning, and rather than going back and living there in the moment and as coaching. And again, I know you'll get this. So let me bring the screen. Do you need the screen back up, or can I just do it from this for a minute? Right, okay. So when we talk about the black, again, we're going back to words like it's dark. When you're in depression, it feels dark, and everybody talks about it as that dark place, stuck in a rut, which is down, in the pits, which is down, rock bottom, which is down. Everything that we use in the language about depression is a feeling low, feeling overwhelmed, and all of the language is about being down there. And it feels heavy, right? And it feels cold down there. There's no warmth down there, not at the very bottom. And so again, all of the words that we have are down there. Now, when we have feelings around depression as well, those feelings are, we've gone beyond sinking feeling. We just feel like we're on the floor. And depression is just feeling like you can't go any lower. It feels like this is the end of the world. And the feelings in the body and the mind are heavy. Like you said, you feel tired because it's hard to get up and do anything. You literally, it's almost like you can't see emotionally. So it's like being in the dark emotionally. Well, there's not much point getting up because I don't know where I'm going. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to create changes that I need and so on. And so there is a lot that sits down there in that bottom. And again, when we talk about music, we talked about music earlier, all the high notes in music are all the happy parts of a tune. Then we come down to the middle, all the smooth notes of the thoughtfulness bit. And then we get the raspy, like really rough noises, which are more towards the angry. And in the black is all the low notes, the slow notes, and all those things that slow down. Our voice goes down when we're depressed. Oh, I'm really having a bad day today, you know. Like, oh yeah, I'm really happy and excited today, but you know, maybe I'm having a really bad day. And in between we get, oh, I'm a bit frightened about that, or I'm really angry about that, is that middle note. But again, the note changes very much like the music. And so there is a lot to hear about this diagram in somebody's voice alone. When they're talking, apart from when I've got raspy chest, which I have today, when they're talking, there is so much intonation in the voice that the more you pick up on this, the more you'll learn, especially in clients, to read those little subtleties along with those movements, like, oh, head up. Oh, you say something and they're like, head up. Oh, there was something exciting in that thought. What was it? Or you say something to a client and they're like, the head pulls back a bit. Okay, there was some fear, anxiety. What was it? But if you say something to someone and their head goes down, like quite noticeably down, then there's probably something really keeping them in depression about that topic. And then angry is where they come at you, the attack type movement with the voice, with the body language, with the words, the volume comes up. And so there is so much dynamic in the emotional cycle that we can listen to in words, the heights and depths of the words in terms of high and low feelings, the feelings themselves, the body language and the voice is just so much where by the end of this, you will not only feel different in yourself, but you'll see it differently in other people as well. And it's powerful. And it's powerful because when I did the Nottingham event, I only had 1 hour to deliver this as a presentation. So it was very rushed. And I'd already talked through all 4 colours and the bit about inner and outer change, which we'll get to, within about 10-15 minutes of starting the workshop. I'd done a very quick overview of it. And then we had a latecomer into the workshop. And there's always one, isn't there? So just as we'd gone through the core emotions, this lady came in late. And I said, well, if you don't mind, I said, can we just do 2 minutes where I'll give her a quick catch up about the backstory and about the diagram? And they went, yeah, well, fine. So I literally gave her like a 60-second backstory and then went, do you know what? I've already taught you lot this. I'll let you catch her up. And I sat there and let 4 people in the room tell this latecomer all about the emotional cycle. And they went on for about 5-10 minutes talking about what I'd already told them. And it was powerful that even with a very simple introduction to this, they could then prove that they could very quickly pay that forward. And use that to understand those dynamics in the other person. And it opened up conversation in their own language and their own words, and were repeating it back with things I hadn't even said, but it was spot on. And I loved it. I loved doing that little experiment at Nottingham. It was just like, okay, I've just told you it took less than 5 minutes. Go ahead, pay it forward. But you're getting this intensive workshop today with a lot more in-depth information. And this is something I am looking at doing with a lot more coaches and therapists, as well as paying this forward, because then you could go away and help and understand a lot more clients than I can work with, because I can't work with everybody. Not one-to-one. I'd love to, but it's just not a possibility. Also me. Right. So I'm going to give you another two or 3 minutes to write down again everything that comes to you about all those feelings within the black section, within depression, and anything that's relevant to you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Hey, well done. All right.
So I've got hiding in my cave, living under a rock, in brackets, being stupid, drowning, running away, being suicidal, and just thinking that this would be a much easier way. Everybody is better off without me. Grief, being silent and numb from within and drained.
Wow. You pulled a lot from there. Yeah. And how much of that are you feeling at the moment, and how much of that is from the past?
I think apart from being suicidal and thinking that everybody's better off without me, I think everything is there. I go through stages where I think, and have been, I think so, maybe it's just easier that way. I actually can't be bothered anymore. And but the rest feels real
Yeah.
because I'm going through that. And sort of this feeling of when you wake up in the morning, count out literally the hours until you can go back to bed.
Yeah. That is a lot there to deal with. Yeah. But you can and you will. And although I know you feel there at the moment, between there and the blue, there's a lot in the black and the blue. I know that you've got the motivation to change this.
Disappointing yourself, that's also in there.
Yeah.
Feeling disappointed in yourself.
There's a lot of self-judgment
Yeah,
rather than self-belief.
because thinking, oh, I've got the whole day or the whole afternoon, I can do this and this, and then, oh, once again, I haven't done it.
Yeah.
See, I proved myself right.
I'm just making a note of that. There's a couple of bits here I think are going to make great topics to talk about, sort of follow-up topics or whatever. And I might do some little bits of worksheet for you at the end to keep this going, because this is important to pick a lot of this up and keep moving with it. So yeah, so we talked about loss versus potential in the blue, but here we've got a lot of self-judgment versus self-belief. And I've heard quite a bit of that in there. And I really want to see you move into that self-belief. So what was one of the things you said in there? What if everyone's better off without me? And remember what we said about taking that and turning it into a positive. What could you say instead?
What if everybody's happy to be with me?
Yes. And why wouldn't they be?
Yeah. I mean, I always say to myself that I wouldn't commit suicide because I wouldn't want to hurt my children yet again.
No, I'm glad to
And
hear that.
I cannot even imagine what they would go through, and I don't want them to go through that.
That's
So
powerful.
there's a big divide there.
Yeah, because didn't you say there was somebody already did that? One of the children's fathers or something?
Yeah,
Or
no, we didn't. The psychopath. I would beat the living daylights
that's
out of
it.
him. No, I didn't have any children, nor sex or anything like this with him. He he hung himself after 7 years because all his lies came to the surface.
Yeah,
And
you know what it's like to feel that sense of suicide from the outside, even knowing them and having been
well,
close to.
that was very different because a lot of people blame me for it because
Yeah.
I was a horrible person to him and covering a lot of things. But
Oh goodness.
um, that's something, I mean, I've hurt my children so much in the past, staying with this guy, for example, together or whatever. I have no right to and don't want to hurt them again. But I have to be also very careful there because as I'm saying this now, I have no right hurting them again, that I have to learn to put boundaries up for me and my feelings. And I battle with that with my children. I rather hide from them. And then they haven't heard from me the whole week because I don't really know what to say, or maybe I don't know what to say, or maybe they don't like what I'm saying, or maybe they're upset with me, or they judge me, or they laugh about me, or God knows what.
When you think that they're trying to be in their happy place, and when they come and spend time with you at the moment and you're in that black and that blue, although they don't describe it that way, they feel that. And they're probably trying not to absorb that for themselves.
Yeah,
They may be feeling the
very
same, and it's reflecting it. And so what if you were in a better place where you not only heal yourself, but you heal your family as well?
Yeah.
And then other
Very
people as well through your
definite.
coaching.
Yeah.
And if
Very,
you,
very definite.
yeah, if you, when, it's not even what if, it's when. Let's move it to when. When you heal yourself, you heal others with you.
Yeah.
In fact, that's going to be another really good mantra for you on the end of that other yellow block of words you wrote. When I heal myself, I heal others too.
Yeah, it's very, very definite. Like us, they had enough drama. They don't need my drama.
Yeah, exactly. So instead of drama, offer them healing. We will get you there. We will get you there. But I can see you feeling this as we say it. And even as I said it, I saw you, even then, it was subtle. When I said, when I heal myself, I heal others too. And there was this subtle shift in your body language. But I knew it hits home when I see that. And it was like micro movement. But I see it in you that it's like, oh, that makes sense. And just saying something like that every morning when you get up and every night before you go to bed, it will shift your thinking throughout the whole day. And that other little quote to read in the mornings as well is really powerful. The other block. Wow. So let's move up again, because that is always the hardest part to go through, I think, is the depression part. But let's move. Oh, actually, I didn't cover through some of the words I've got. So again, I got stuck in a rut. Blackness, darkness, rock bottom, end of the world, nothingness. Some people describe it as being a place with nothingness. Lost, paralyzed, so like emotionally feeling paralyzed, which is why, because of the weight, you just feel like you can't move. A shadow of themselves. We talk about people being a shadow of themselves. You're not quite there yet. I know you're feeling a lot of that, but there is still so much personality and dynamics in you. And I can see that you're not down to a shadow by far. So we're getting there. When we talk about music, the music that plays in that zone down there, they call it death metal. That fits down there, death metal and all that really heavy metal stuff. When we're at the bottom of that emotional cycle, people say the only way is up. Now, how many times have you heard people say, well, the only way is up, you know, oh, I'm really bad. Well, the only way is up.
I would clap somebody then.
Yeah, exactly. But when people understand that when you are at the bottom of a cycle and you like to ride a bike, when a wheel gets to the bottom and you keep moving, it will keep going up. So there is a point where you have to recognize that rock bottom moment and realize that actually from here, it will get better. It is going to move upwards, whether you're moving up through the red or up through the blue, whichever way it's going. So when you understand the only way is up, it means either being stuck there, because that is a choice that you can decide not to use any of this information and stay stuck there, or you can use these mantras and changes and shifts and the knowledge to go, the only way is up. And this is then moving your bus in the right direction and turning it around in the right direction. So that's a really powerful phrase in itself. And then we've got can't see the wood for the trees. There's another one I like. So it's like the trees are so thick, it's dark in the forest and you can't see your way. It's like, again, a sense of being lost. Some people dream of like a black dog when they're feeling oppressed with stuff. Stuck. Prison. Some people say it feels like they're imprisoned in their own mind and barred in. And that was why the book is called Brain Unchained. Because I'd actually written the book and I still hadn't come up with a title. The last day or last week I was writing the book. I was like, I still need a title. And I kept coming up with titles, and I was working with my book mentor, and it was like, yeah, that's a good title, but it still didn't feel right. And for me, I had to really feel this title to go, yes, that's the one going on the cover. And so I already had an artist working on the graphics, but still didn't have the title. And so in the end, I rang my son and we got on the phone and did some brainstorming. And I say, everybody talks about the darkness, the pit, stuck in a rut. And everybody talks about this journey. Well, there's light at the end of the tunnel. And that is the thing, when we talk about the darkness and light at the end of the tunnel, these are the tunnels. So it's finding your way. Which tunnel are we taking? But this is the light, this is the darkness. But I said, I don't want my title to be about being in the darkness. And I don't want it to be about being at the light at the other end of the tunnel. I said, I want my title to reflect the bit in the middle. I said, what was it like for you when you realized that although you weren't there yet, you were heading towards that light, you were leaving the darkness behind, and you realized that everything was going to be okay? And I said, what was that moment like for you in the middle of that tunnel? And he went, it was like my head had been wrapped in chains, or my brain. He said, like my brain had been wrapped up in chains. And it was like, as I started to feel better, they started to break and fall away. And my brain started to become free and it got lighter. And so we kind of jotted down all of the key words and started to pair them up and say them out. And as we said, Brain Unchained, it was like, that's it. That's the title of the book. And that's what it reflects, is that bit where we're going through that journey and letting go of the weight. So for him, those chains represented the weight and all the thoughts, the feelings and the beliefs that were holding him back and holding him down. So when we talk about light at the end of the tunnel, we're talking about the weight versus feeling light. And that's where my title came from. So for him, that was a powerful moment to recognize that and let it go. So where did we get to? Stuck in a prison, barred in despair, hopelessness, can't escape, heavy, hollow. Some people say you feel hollow as well, like you lose the emotions down there, because you don't feel, if you go too deep into depression, and this is where I'm saying you still have some dynamics, because some people, and this is helpful when you're coaching, have lost touch with any of the feelings in the fear, anxiety, and the panic because they've avoided them entirely. They're too scared to go up and work through those. But you are working into them. We just need you to change that narrative a little bit more into the positives rather than sitting in the negative. Some people will try and work through it through the anger, through the other side, and they'll get angry, depressed, frustrated. And so there's a lot of that side as well. And they go, actually, I don't want to feel like that. And I don't want to feel like that. And so they don't work through their problems and they stay down there. And they've let go of all those emotions, is when they've become numb and they feel hollow. So if somebody's feeling like that, they're a lot more deep in that depression and they're not in touch with those emotions enough to work through them. But helping them understand the blue and the red and all of those emotions and the positive and negative gives them the hope, the inspiration, the guidance and the map for working back through them. And it gives them a purpose for processing those emotions again and getting in touch with them rather than avoiding them or not feeling them. So it's very powerful for that. So that is depression. Next one is always a fun one. I like this next one. It always comes up with some amazing answers, and that is the red. So I reckon you can probably guess some of this by now.
Yeah.
When we've talked about blue, actually it's the other thing, we talk about blue as in, when we talked about happy's up here and depression's down here. So again, we're embracing that black, arms go down, head goes down, you know, that fits that space on that diagram. And this is why it's here. So imagine the head is the middle, like up is happy, down or here at the heart really is the middle and down there. But when we're running away and arms going here, running away from something, again, we're embracing that blue section.
Yeah.
But when we're fighting and punching out or punching below the belt, depending on how we feel, again, that's the red section. So again, all the dynamics in the arm movements, again, fit that red. And this was what helped my son so much, because being on the autistic spectrum as well, it was hard for him to read all his body language, the tone, the language itself. But understanding all of this made it really powerful for him. And he's actually one of the most resilient people I know now. He's great at reading other people more than they are. He's really good at it now. Perhaps not quite in this sense, but he's just learned to do it in his own way from here once he'd got that understanding. But yeah, he's incredibly empathic now from around other people, which at one point I didn't think was even a possibility. So it can happen. And he was purely in the black with a lot of aggression in the red. There was very little in the blue side for him. He was very much in the black and the red, but he came back to happy. So we talk about when people are in a pure rage, we call it red mist. When we antagonize people to make them angry, we call it red rag to a bull. And we talk about fight, which is like boxing gloves are red. Fighting is like blood sports, and everything that we talk about in terms of power. Power is often associated with red. Power colors, they say wear red as a power color. And there is a lot of power and anger in the red. And so that's really powerful to recognize as well, all the words we use. How we feel in ourselves as well. When you're feeling angry, instead of like tension where you're pulling away, it's a different kind of tension where you want to push out and punch out. So if you think about something that makes you feel angry, notice how that tension feels different, even if it's a thought of that tension than actually doing it. It's a different kind of tension when you're angry with somebody than it is when you're afraid of something. So again, fear is like pulling away. Anger is like, want to hit out. So it's the opposites. So I'm going to give you a couple of minutes again to go through your words, and then we'll see how much. I might give you a bit longer for this one, but I think you'll be all right. I'll let you guide the time because you're doing well.
Right. What do I do with my tissue? Hello.
Wow.
Yeah.
You're doing brilliantly with this. You really
Ready?
are. You are doing brilliantly with this. So sometimes people will only be able to pick 1 or 2 words. Like some people's emotional language is so restricted that they don't think about how to put words to how they feel. But you've got a lot there already, which is really great. I'm looking forward to hearing this one. So away you go.
It's shouting, screaming, not wanting to shut up in an argument, like always having the last word. Hitting verbally, physically hitting, anger, resentment, hate. Unforgiving, not forgetting, unable to speak, so angry, slamming the door, listening to battle music, heavy metal, etc. It doesn't matter that I don't like battle music and heavy metal, but I often say with music, there's the right place for the right music.
Yeah,
And
that is very true.
I train very well with heavy metal. But
Ah, that makes sense. When you think about what we've said about heavy metal versus the death metal, heavy metal is like into the red, but it's like a little bit lower energy, but it's fighting.
yeah,
It's
it gives me
fighting.
power.
And it does give you power. So it's a good choice for working out too.
I always say the other day I walked to the gym and had my big headphones on, and my PT looked at me and he says, "What are you listening to?" So I put the headphones on his head, and it was like from Lord of the Rings and so on, you know.
Oh, brilliant.
Oh, that music. I find this, I taught a spinning class a couple of times in South Africa with that music. And it was endless climbing, and it was exactly just that.
Wow.
And
That's
yeah,
spot
no,
on though, isn't it? You are already subconsciously making the right choices to support that energy. You see, when you're in a workshop and you're working out or in a workout, you want to be finding that power. So where you want to be is not always up there and happy. The happy comes after the workout. But if you want to be in that power state in that workout, that's a perfect choice.
yeah,
So that's a great use of recognizing that actually being there in the red is not necessarily a bad thing, as long as you're in the red in the positive.
yeah, for the right reasons.
Yeah. Whereas the shouting, the hitting, everything there is about looking at one of the things that when we talk about fight, so red is all about the fight. And for me, when we talk about the positive and negative, is what are you fighting against and what are you fighting for? And
Yeah,
when you think about that and you talk about the shouting, the hitting, slamming doors, that's not fighting for anything. That is fighting against something. And that's your letting out your adrenaline, your anger, your frustrations in various ways through your voice, through your body language, through your actions, because there's something you hate in that moment, something you dislike and you're not happy with.
fighting for getting my power
Yeah.
back. And I found this a lot in the relationships that and in every relationship it got worse. That
Yeah.
I mentioned to you that at the end that when I was living with that woman together, that she wanted me to be a lesbian, but I was so angry with her constantly
Yeah.
that I almost didn't recognize myself. That's how angry I was. And also with Sophie's dad before that, with the drinking and so on, there was this powerless anger there. And because I knew I couldn't do anything about it. And yeah, apart from actually packing my things and then going.
I
And
was
then
going
the
to say,
first time,
you've said it there. Boom, you've said it. There was a choice.
yeah.
But it was getting to making that choice.
And when I
Yeah.
then finally moved out of that woman's house, and Sophie and I moved into our place, then that anger got, well, the anxiety was all the time there, but
Yeah.
it was just, there was no more the anger, but it was the anxiety. Oh, no, I'm on my own here. And what I'm going to do with that,
Yeah.
and
The different sensation, yeah.
yeah. And but the anger is, I get that anger from time to time when, but very rarely now, because generally it takes me a long time to get really angry.
Okay.
And
So
but
if you were dealing with a client and they were feeling angry, how would you describe them to that to them as why they feel that? Why would you say to somebody else, if we can just take an objective view of this for a moment, why would you tell somebody else that they even feel anger in the first place?
because I think they're afraid that they're losing their power, their input into the story, or if one can say it like that, or the um
Yeah.
yeah, that they actually get drowned.
Yeah. Well, the drowning is the anxiety, but the feeling, and I think a good word for what you're saying is disempowered. When they're feeling disempowered and the anxiety side, they're feeling that they're drowning.
Yeah,
So
but the
you can have
drowning is
both at the
getting
same time.
drowned. So if somebody holds your head underwater,
Yeah. So you can be both at the same time. So holding somebody underwater on the red side disempowers them, takes away
yeah,
the energy, the spark. There's no flame left when they're pushed underwater. So they kind of go together. That if they're pushed down on one side and they're pushed down on the other at the same time, that's when they're overwhelmed.
yeah,
They're losing their fight. They're losing that positive.
and
So
a lot of people are lashing out then.
so somebody who's sinking on one side, but then still has the motivation to work through it on the other and is not feeling disempowered, like through grief, but then still has motivation, can work through that, and sometimes on their own when they have that understanding, or it's inherently natural for them to do that. But when we feel disempowered as well, that's when it becomes completely overwhelming and we go into that depression. Now, another way I think would be a great way to review this is resilience. When you are resilient, other people cannot disempower you.
Mm.
And if you are allowing other people to disempower you, or it's happening because you haven't got the skills to be resilient against them, then yes, that happens. And being angry, shouting, slamming doors, and all of that, and fighting and hitting is when we feel like, yes, you feel like you're going to lose something, we move into protective mode, and protection is in the red. Like a mother who feels someone's going to take her baby, like we know you do not interfere with any animal by taking her baby because she's going to get angry. Again, we go back to the movies and they find a baby dinosaur and like, yeah, that's great. Oh, we interfere with it, or a baby, some lion or tiger. But the point you've got to fear in that movie is, where's the mother?
Mm.
And we go into that protective mode. I call it my inner wolf. So
Yeah,
for me,
and
I've built
bear, that's a
resilience.
bear, it's like,
A bear, you say?
yeah.
Oh, if that's how you feel, no, embrace that as a spirit
Mm.
animal. But the question is, how can your spirit animal, your bear, be calm, like a
I don't
sun
even know
bear?
what my spirit animal is.
That's maybe a good one to think about, actually, is if you think about, is there anything in your home that has animals already that you like, a particular animal?
Cats.
What is it?
Cats.
Cats.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, sorry, cat. I thought you said yes. Cats. So you like cats. And cats can be claws out and fighting creatures, but they can also be peaceful and companion, and yeah, and they
They're
can
also
fight.
fair. The people either like dogs or like cats. And
Yeah. You
yeah, I
like
would
cats.
definitely not sit on somebody's lap just and lick their face just for the sake of it.
No, we're not expecting you to do that part of them, but it's about that personality in them.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
That they are peaceful, calm, cuddly creatures that sleep and relax, and they got, we talk about them having the perfect life.
And I always laugh because people always say to me, I'm a perfect Cancerian. And
Oh, same as me.
yeah, I'm on the 27th of June.
Okay, yeah.
And so on the other side, really can be like a cat and cuddly and whatsoever and so on. And suddenly you're going to get a clap.
Yeah. Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, but yeah, there's a lot about when you look at how you might relate your own behavior to how a cat is as well. For example, what is there in you about liking cats that you embrace on a happy day, but also feel when you're having one of those angry days?
Yeah.
And yeah, the funny thing is Rory and I did our podcast last night about this, harnessing the human collection. And we talked about herd mentality with sheep. We briefly touched on elephants, but we talked about ants and beehives and chickens with a pecking order. And we looked at animal behavior in collectives to look at the parallels of how we behave as humans.
Mm.
And when we feel like we're lost, isolated, lonely, and not part of the collective, how can we use personal development to fit ourselves back into a place in society where we feel like we belong in part of the collective, but in a purposeful, meaningful way that makes us happy, rather than feeling like one of the workers who's oppressed?
Yeah.
So that might be a really good podcast for you to watch. So when I put this up, I'm going to tag that in as part of your course.
Yeah.
I'm going to tag that in as some homework for you to watch that one. Collective podcast. But yeah, there was some really good stuff in that one. I got to catch up with where I was again. So we're doing the red, talking about all that power and negativity. So when we're fighting either for or against something, we're either fighting against it because we hate it, or we're trying to protect against it and we're trying to create distance and a barrier, or we fight for things that we want to keep. So in a sense, we fight against the enemy, but fight for the things we love. Now, I see love as a connection to something we love doing, something we love to possess or own, somebody we love to have a connection with, whether it's a relationship, our children, other family, friends. To me, love is a connection. And we know we have that connection because we would fight for it. But when we are disconnected with something, we fight against it and we hate it. So it's recognizing when people say we're attached to things, I think it's good to be attached to things. And people say, let go. But letting go to me is a different thing to love. Love is a connection and it's attachment, but it's a positive attachment. But sometimes letting go of love and detaching creates this anger. But when we can understand it better, and then another one to look at is forgiveness. And forgiveness is not about necessarily letting the other person know you forgive them. It's about understanding the process of forgiveness that creates different emotions within yourself. And that includes forgiving yourself for your part in everything that's happened. So, you say you've done life coaching, but how much work did you do on the forgiveness in that?
Not very much.
Okay. Well, that's another one I'm going to tag in for you because we've done one on that. I might even do it as a separate topic. But yeah, again, that is another one that I have found really, really powerful over the years with things I've been through, where I mean, one person in particular for about 10 years, I always thought if I met them in the street, I'd punch them in the face. I really did feel that anger to somebody, and I held that for years. And I never saw them. But then I realized one day that every day I felt like that, they were holding power over me, and yet they didn't even know me anymore. They had not seen me for 10 years.
Mm.
I'm thinking, why am I letting this person hold power over me? And I also realized at this point, and this is years before I did emotional awareness stuff, a long time, this is like 10, 15 years before I did this, if not 20 years. But it was like, oh my goodness, why am I letting them hold that power over me? And actually, I could then see, because I'd learned more, that there were reasons they had done what they did because of their background, their family, their upbringing, their lack of emotional support, their lack of even being aware of their own problems in themselves. And I thought, do you know what? I wouldn't want to be in their head. And it must be awful to be in their head and live in their life. And for that, I learned to forgive and realized they did it for a reason. And it wasn't something, I also realized that because I was young at the time and I didn't know or understand about mental health and about their problems, I didn't have the skills to support them. And so I wasn't to blame for the fact that they didn't heal. And I forgave myself as well. And I never, ever felt angry about them again.
Yeah, that's the hardest thing. You said to me also, how much did I do about forgiveness? I worked with somebody in South Africa before I finished my life coaching course, and to get through my own issues and anxiety. Not that all my anxiety was gone there, but I understood it a bit better. And that was also about forgiving and grounding yourself and being just in yourself, and
Yeah.
but forgiving myself and not feeling guilty about what I've done. I don't think that's something which I can, it is less, but I don't think I can totally,
It's a process.
yeah.
It's
So
not, it's not like a switch where you can just turn it off overnight. And I think it took me a while to realize various things along the way. And then it was like, now I get it. But it wasn't until I got it that I could then go, actually, I can now let that go. I never forget it. This is not about forgetting,
yeah,
but it's definitely about letting go of the hate and the guilt and the shame within yourself.
yeah, against
And
yourself.
that is a process. So maybe this is something we need to kind of package up for another session when you're
Yeah,
ready. And we can do that separately. But certainly something to look at and recognize. And I think as you start to process more of today and go back over this again and again, if you're content to sit and watch it a few times over, you might start to pick more of that up as you repeat some of these processes. And it will eventually fall into place about, yeah, the processes will come in like the answer. And as you sit quietly with those thoughts as well, sometimes mindfulness and using mindfulness strategies, I'm going to give you access to my mindfulness course. Actually, I'm going to give you access to all my courses. As you've paid for today, I'm happy to do that. They're worth £60, so £60 worth of courses online. But there is the emotional cycle for beginners, which is a condensed version of what we've done today in about 10, 15 minutes. There's creating a safe space for talking, which I think would be helpful for you with your family and yourself as well, and creating that in yourself. There is improving your emotional language, which will definitely work on some of the things you've done today. And then there is 10 steps to beginning mindfulness. So it's about when you catch yourself feeling anxious and overwhelmed or feeling depressed, about using that to recenter and bring yourself back to the present, like you said, about being in the present and then focusing on those positives again. So I think there's a lot in there that can help you as well. And I'll get you a code. It'll be a unique code for you, a one-off, and it will give you access to them. Now, I am going to roll out new software soon. It could be about 6 weeks or something So if you're okay with that, what I can do is you can get in there now anyway and sign up and see the ones that are there now. But it will mean recreating a new account in a few weeks
Yeah.
for the new one, and it'll be nice to have the feedback on the old software versus the new as well. I would love that, because I'm finding the old software a little bit clunky, but the new one looks amazing and it runs so much nicer. So it'd be nice to have your feedback on the comparison when the rollout comes out as well. Thank you. So that's working in the background. I've already transferred them across. I'm just waiting for the new page to be branded to match the site. And then I've got some funding coming through where I can then pay my web designer to switch it over. So there's lots going on in the background, and it'd be nice to have you in the process there. So I'm going to do that for all those courses, because I can see all of those really helping on top of today's. Yeah, that would be great. So there's an extra £60 of value in there for you, bless you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So we've done the red. I've just got to go through some words here. I love all your descriptions. So for me, it's fire as well. Fire is red. And we're talking about power. So when we say we're on fire, yay, we're motivated. There's some really positive words in here. Passionate. Passion's associated with red and love hearts. Motivational, love. But then we've also got the hate and aggression, fight, red rag, red mist. But then there's people who are buzzing with energy. And we say they're buzzing with energy, and it's like, zzz, but it's all over here versus like, over there in the sad. We got zzz in the red. So all that buzz in there. When you actually pick on, I'm in it now. I'm buzzing at the moment with energy, and you can feel it. And I know other people pick it up from me. When people came to that workshop in Nottingham, and I saw Vanessa Mary a bit later on, she said, oh my God, they were buzzing when they came down from that workshop. They went straight down to tell her. And they were. But then it can also be much more subtle, whether it's in yourself or other people. We're talking about people being a bit bitchy or a bit tetchy, you know, like, I don't like this and I don't like that. And, oh, you're, you know, and all those little judgmental things that are just slight passive aggressive type comments are all in the red as well. And this is what helps build resilience against that, is when other people say those things, instead of taking it personally, is actually realizing that when they say that, that's because of their thoughts, feelings, and beliefs keeping them down there. But just because they have those thoughts, feelings, and beliefs and say those negative things doesn't mean we have to take them on board. That's theirs. And when you realize that's theirs and you don't have to absorb it, that's where we build resilience, as well as doing all the mindfulness stuff, working on ourselves, the positive mantras and affirmations. All of this builds resilience until one day you can stand there in front of someone who's having an absolute rage and just be calm around them and wait for them to come down out of that energy space and then sit with them. And that's powerful when we can do that. And I know I had to do that a lot with my son. No matter how angry he was, no matter how sad he was, no matter how depressed he was, it was powerful to be able to just sit there and offer that calm space for him.
Yeah, I find that easy to do that with others.
Yeah.
But
now imagine you can do that for yourself as well.
Yeah.
How would that feel if you can offer yourself that same calm space? Yeah.
It would be quite amazing without anxiety and
Yeah. And you can.
Yeah.
We'll build that resilience, and you can do that for yourself too. And that is one of the powerful things that I've really enjoyed, is being able to go, do you know what? I know I have problems with my parents. My parents are very narcissistic, passive aggressive. They say some things which to them, they think they're being kind. But oh my God, it is so hurtful. And I have to sit there and take that and just go, do you know what? That's them. It doesn't have to be me. Like when I wrote my book, my mum said, and my mum always talks the royal we. She never says I. You know, it's the pair of them. We. My parents are so interlinked; they're not separate people. When we talk about being detached, when you're in a relationship, this is an important thing as well. We can talk about that another time. Is about being yourself, but they are so locked in together that it's the royal we for everything. So we are really proud of you for writing your book. It's like, wow, thank you, Mum. Now I know my mum well enough to know that's not going to stop there. She says, well, I hope you're successful with it. I was like, okay, this is unexpected. This is not the kind of comment I normally get. Well, thank you. And I accepted the compliment. But I was still waiting for the next comment because I knew it was coming. She says, because that will show him, won't it? I said, excuse me. She says, well, if you're successful with your book, that will show him up for leaving you. Because I literally, this was the week, literally about hang on. I broke up with my husband. We left in the July, and this was in the December. So it was only a few months after the breakup. So yeah, so proud of you for writing your book. I hope it's successful because that will show him, won't it? Now, how does that feel with that last part on that statement? Yeah. The first two parts were wonderful, but that last part was like a stab in the back. Like, I'm trying to feel better, moving out of my divorce. I'd been married 28 years. And then my mum's thinking, I'm writing this to be spiteful back at my husband. Like, me being successful is it came across as spiteful.
That she didn't understand anything what you wrote.
No. So I get it that she was trying to be supportive, and in her mind she was. That it was meant to have been a helpful comment, but the reality of it was actually quite the opposite. So I said, if I'm going to get back at my husband for leaving me, I don't think writing a book about emotional awareness is the right way to do it. And she went, well.
My mother would say then, yeah.
Yeah, but then she went, oh, well, it's a shame he's got his name on the cover. Because I still use my married name. And I was at that point debating if I ever got divorced. Well, actually, I hadn't even gone through the divorce at this point. Would I keep my married name or my maiden name? But she went, oh, it's a shame it's got his name on the cover. I was like, Mum. And I fought back at this point because I went into protective mode. That name is on the cover because that's the surname of my son. And that book is about what I went through to help my son. That name belongs on the cover, I said. And she went, oh, I suppose you're right. And so I had to walk away going, I know she meant it in kindness, but my mum never stops. And that's very much in the same way. When we said at the beginning, you were saying these positive things, what you really want and where you want to be, and then you're going back into that blue. And I could hear you drop back every time. And that's how my mum is on the red. She wants to be supportive and motivational, but moves back into something a little bit bitchy, spiteful.
Yeah.
And it always comes with something that is a bit of a dig. And that's where she emotionally sits a lot. And I've had to learn to build up my resilience over time. But it actually got to a point last year, I stopped going to visit because
my mum can only praise over WhatsApp, not face to face.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the other thing, that she's more like it when I'm on my own than when I'm around other people. So now when I go and, in fact, I've got to see her tonight, but when I see her, I never see her on my own at the moment because that's part of my process of resilience. It's in my boundaries and recognizing that I'm like it. I feel less resilient when I'm around her and I'm on my own.
Yeah.
And she will say more because I'm on
again.
Yeah. And so I have to go with my daughter or my son, or we go to quiz night. So she comes and joins us with my friend. So I'm not on my own with her. We're in the pub. And so, yeah, quiz night tonight. So it's about learning also to put processes in place and recognize where those weaknesses are in your own emotions versus other people. and not necessarily cutting them out of life, but how to manage those boundaries and barriers as well. So that's another one, is looking at that. So yeah, I'm going through these reds because I'm aware of time, and I have got to finish on the hour because I've got 2 more meetings after this. It's a busy day. So we're talking about people who are hot-headed as well. Those where you say something to them, they're like, oh, you know. So hot-headed, rage, explosive. And then there's people we describe as a bit hot and cold. And they bounce between being angry and sad. I don't see you that way, but I can imagine some people would, when the way you're talking about the fighting, or have done in the past. So maybe your children have seen you that way, where you're like all sad one day and all angry another, and so on. And so that is where your emotions are not stuck in the bottom. Your emotions are trying to change for the better. Just that some days you're trying to work into the blue, and some days you're reacting in the red. And it's about how we can move those up to the positive. So I'm hearing a lot of stuff here, here, and here.
Yeah.
But I can also hear where you've got thoughtfulness, you've got motivation, and you know where you want to be up here. So you're already working up here quite a lot, and it's getting the rest of that up with it until we get you. I can do it that way. We want to get you up here. So you want a little bit of time out and rest and relaxation and reflection. And you need days off to recuperate. So the black is not necessarily a bad place to be again. When you go, oh, I'm feeling a bit overwhelmed, and rather than fighting it and burning out totally, is having a day to rest and a day off to do nothing. When we talk about black being nothingness, sometimes we need that space with nothing.
Yeah.
So that we can cope with everything else we do in the rest of life. So we want to get you back up here. I will do a diagram of this where I'll chart it out from the language you've used today to show where you are now. And then if you want to do another session a bit later down the line, we can redo that and see.
Yeah, that sounds good.
So for me, I actually have a way where I can chart out and make your progress measurable. And most therapists don't have a way of showing measurably how somebody's emotions change. So again, this is something that I love to use.
Yeah, sounds exciting. Yeah.
And actually show progress. So it motivates me to be able to show progress that I know you are going to make. So we've done the colours. And we talk about blood pressure as well, when people are like, the blood pressure boils when they're like, oh, you know. And even on the cartoons, when somebody makes one of the cartoons angry, they turn red and go,
and
like the kettle going pop, you know. Or so there's lots of language, and say with over 6,000 words, and that's without talking about feelings and analogies and quotes. 6,000 emotional words. Everything you hear now, you know, I've changed your brain today. I really have. You'll notice it. Everything you see and hear now, you will see and hear in relation to this diagram. Oh yeah, that's up there. Somebody will say something and you'll think, oh, that was in the yellow, or that was down there in the red, but towards the black, or whatever. And you'll start to hear it in other people. And that will bring you back doing your life coaching as well. I can see this happening as we get there. So the next one we're going to do is, I'm going to bring the chart back up for a minute, is the orange. Have you got any idea what this is? So we've got orange in the middle here, and we've got orange all the way around the outside. Have you got any idea what that might be?
Not quite there.
Okay.
And or swing. That's not what I mean, actually. It is
I don't normally ask, but I just thought as you do the life coach, and it'd be interesting to ask you first.
I think it's where you are a bit of everything in the moment, because you're not quite sure where you want to be, or where you want, in inverted commas, where you actually fit in the moment, and you actually have to do some self-work to figure out which of those spaces is the right part for me.
Brilliant. Good answer. Yes. I'm going to go, yeah, I'm happy with that answer. Right. It's me happy with that answer.
I passed the course.
Yes. And you hear it in me as I say that. Go, yes. So for me, the orange represents change.
Yeah.
Because when I did this with my son and we'd work through these emotions, then it came to the next question. Why do we change from one emotion to the other? Why do we change emotions? And the answer was because something changed.
Yeah.
What was it?
One variable changed in the equation.
Yeah. So the answer coming to this one, when we got the positive and negative, so the answer is something changed, either for the better or for the worse.
But also it could be internally or externally.
Yay! Yes. And that's the internal and external orange.
Yeah.
So the internal part is thoughts, feelings, and beliefs.
And the external part is how you're reacting to your outside.
Yes, you get it.
The same as intrinsic motivation and external motivation.
Yeah. So it's how we can change within ourselves, like building that resilience, being able to react differently to things people say or do. So whatever influences come at us from the outside world, it's how we personally handle it. And the difference in between is how it affects our emotions. And when you talk about you're driving the bus, this is your steering wheel and your map.
I'm actually going to make myself one of those.
I'll do you the printout version. In fact, when you do the first workshop online, the free one, because there's 4 that are paid, which are £60, but there's a 10-minute free one as well.
Okay.
And there is a printout at the end of this. So you'll be able to get that from there.
On cardboard.
And if it's not there and you don't find it, do let me know. But if not, it will be when I do the rollout of the new software. It's definitely attached in there because I've already put it in there. But I'm pretty sure when you do the 10-minute one of this, there is the printout at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. So yeah, internal change and external change. So say, for example, you step out on the road and you get hit by a car. Not hard, but just enough to knock you off your feet. The first thing you're going to feel is you see that car coming. So that's external. And the other thing I wanted to point out here is that every single thing we experience on this emotional diagram, with the whole world around us and everything in ourselves that affects these 4 core emotions, everything we experience, we only ever experience through the 5 senses. What we see, what we hear, what we feel, what we smell, and what we taste. Does that make life seem a little bit simpler to start breaking down and analyzing when we realize that?
Yeah, it's sort of, if you want to use this analogy of when somebody takes a wool ball and just takes it all out and everything like this, and it looks like an absolute mess, instead of, yeah, it's actually relatively straightforward. There are only those 5 things, and these are only, which means there's only so much we can. It's not so overwhelming as it is when you, oh, what is this or what is that, or
yes. I love that you said already, not so overwhelming. And sometimes one of the things we are missing is knowledge and information to understand something. But the minute we understand something, it's less overwhelming, less confusing. We feel like now we get it, rather than like, oh, don't get it, I'm confused. And I know certainly with Larry, with this funding thing, I don't get that. One day I might, but at the moment, to me, it's like this big ball of messy wool, like you say.
And she asked me then, Christiane, and I said, that's not fair. because I go and shut down. Then
Yeah. Yeah, I do with funding. But I've got to
in
learn
general,
to
if
manage
somebody
my
puts me on the
accounts.
spot like that,
Yeah. So
I
I'm going to
shut
have
down.
to get coaching for my finances, because for me, that's the bit where I shut down and I find it very difficult, is dealing with anything that's conceptual around money and finances,
Yeah.
because I don't get the bigger picture in the same way with this. I see it. And this is what helped my son see it. And it helped me come out of some of that emotional dysregulation as well. So now I have emotional regulation.
But then finances have also the potential to have something very scary about them.
Yeah.
So
But again, that fear sits with what we could lose.
yeah.
And we could lose money because we get taxed too much, or we get fined.
Yeah.
We could lose credibility because we don't charge right, or we forget to pay a bill. So again, when you look at the fear, is what are we fearing losing? And when we look at the fear of what we could lose, we then can say, okay, so what if it could be done a positive way? And you see where this process now starts to work with that. So I am working on that even for myself. Like, finances are difficult, but what if I could manage my finances? So there is a certain amount I have done, and then there's a part that I still don't get it. But when we get to a point we realize something that we can work on, we get our empowerment back with that. But when there are bits we still feel disempowered for, that is where learning comes in. And learning, if we're unable to self-learn it, is where we ask for help for somebody else. Like when you're drowning and you're going, help, I'm drowning. We can do the same emotionally. And you're doing that by sitting on this workshop today. You've asked for help. And after this, I bet you don't feel like you are anywhere near as overwhelmed or underwater. You are going to feel like you've got your head above water, if nothing else.
Yeah, I sort of categorized it.
Yeah. See, now that's where my admin skills for many years have come in. I got used to filing and categorizing. And then one day it all fell into place, categorizing emotions as well. But it all started with that question, how can I help my son to see his world of hidden emotions? Like, I'm sitting in the car going, okay, you can't understand them because he can't see them. That was the next question. How can I help him see them? And this is what came out of the next few years of development. And it did take an awful lot of thought for me to be able to put all of this in there and say everything fits so that other people can use it. And I tested it. I tested it with people from 80 years old right down to 5 weeks old. I helped my grandson at 5 weeks old one day. And it's by talking through something with his mum, we resolved why he'd had a day where he just cried the entire day. We're like, why? But it was not just the emotional cycle diagram, there's more to it. So inner and outer change are very, very powerful. And yes, we change between emotions because something changed, positively or negatively. So when something changed and it impacts us negatively, do we stay stuck there? Or do we say, actually, I have the power to make these changes back, whether you make changes in the external world or whether you make changes in your thoughts, feelings, and beliefs. And either way, that's building your resilience and personal development and personal growth internally. But externally is where creating change in the world is where you create change for others by teaching them Pilates, helping them become healthier, where you can help people through your coaching and help them heal emotionally and help them find their value in life. So those are changes that you personally are already making in the world around you. Plus the changes you make by being with friends and family when you connect with them on a positive level. And then that changes the world around them and changes their internal thoughts, feelings, beliefs by proxy over time as well. So it's what I say, by starting with the self and working on yourself, other people around you will start to change. And it was only a few weeks to a month, probably a month or so after I started doing this with my son, And when you work on this every day for yourself, it will help. And you can reach out to me on WhatsApp if you're not sure. But literally within a month or so of helping my son, one of his friends walked into a coffee shop and just sat down with us because they saw us in there. And this friend of his sat down and just went, I've realised that hanging around with Matt makes me a better person. Wow. From where he had been only like weeks before, and I literally did describe him as a shell of himself. When we talk about it being hollow and empty, it was like this body of my son was there, but I could barely see his soul or his spirit or his personality in there. He was in a really deep, dark place in that darkness. And I've only ever seen one other person that deep since. And yet within weeks, somebody saying, well, hanging around him makes me a better person, because they were also in that space and saw the shift in his energy. Yeah. That's powerful. And that made me realize that day, my second light bulb moment, I need to keep doing something with this. I need to keep developing it. It was still boxes on a bit of paper at this point, and a few other words I'd started working on. And I was like, I need to keep doing something with this. And that was in 2015. And it's taken me 10 years to get here. But I was determined to get here, whatever it took. And that was my drive and my passion and my motivation up there in the red, to get up there and make things happen, not only for me, but for others who needed it too. So thank you for being here as part of that journey with me today as well. So that makes me happy to know I can help others.
It was amazing.
Thank you. So that's the inner and outer change. I very quickly do this because I know I have got another meeting at 1 and we're out of time. I will cover this bit very briefly. So back in 1950, we had 50 million people in the UK. There was no official register in the UK for professional counsellors and psychologists. They weren't actually registered, but they were aware that there was 38 in Scotland and 1 in Wales. But they didn't know how many in England. Oh. But even if I count it as less than 100, so we know 39, but I put it as less than 100, against the population, that worked out there was 1 professional psychologist or counsellor per 500,000 people. That's not enough. Not on the back of the war as well. So by 1970, we got an extra 6 million people, but there was now only 163 people registered on the psychology list. Or I can't remember what the BPS is. I've got to remember to look it up. British Psychology something. Society. British Psychology something. I can't remember what the S is. So it worked out we'd now come down to 1 in every 344,000 people, but that's still not enough. And we know that the mental health status and the care systems were very dire back then. Now, 2025, I love this. We've got a lot more people now. So we've got an extra 13 million people on top of that. We are up to 238,000 professionals on the list. Now, that doesn't include life coaches and trainers like myself and mentors, but the professionals who are registered, 238,000. So we're now up to 1 for every, this is amazing, there's no K,000 on the end of it, 298 people. So that's an incredible shift. And I think we need to acknowledge progress there for the amount of extra people, how there is so many more psychologists, is 1 less, like massively less per people. I think that's great progress. However, our current mental health crisis states that 1 in 5 people need support, which still leaves us with a massive shortage, especially off the back of COVID the other year. Mm. And so that's pretty much 1 per household. So for me, I'm looking at, well, how can we address that gap? How can we address the gap? Now, we talked earlier about people being at home, at work, in education. And when those fail, people end up going to therapists, counsellors, coaches, and charities for support and helplines, everything that's about the help, because the rest has failed. So all of those people that need support are the 1 in 5 that are going for that help at the end, but there's not enough. And this is where I want to see you back doing your life coaching and doing it with a purpose, with a passion, and because it's in your heart in the right place.
Yeah, no, I love it.
Good. Thank you. So that's where I'm looking at. When we use a visual understanding, it creates a benefit with emotional awareness. It gives us the tools for talking. And this diagram really becomes a toolkit for having conversations with people of all ages. And even just explaining it to somebody without the diagram visually, even just explaining it sometimes by using the body language and the voice and the language, can give them that understanding of it in conversation enough to help them out of a dark place.
Mm.
And certainly when I know another lady I work with who is a trauma therapist, she has clients where she says it takes 3 to 6 weeks sometimes to get them to open up and talk about their emotions because they are so deep in that depression. She did this training course with me about a month ago and rang me up literally days later. And she said, I had one of those clients in today that was so deep, I just didn't know how to get through to her. She said, I grabbed the book. She said, I showed her the diagram and within 10 minutes, we made a breakthrough.
Mm.
And she really
I
did.
could see that, yeah.
And I'd love to be able to see you doing this as well, just to help your clients through, that you then get better results from them. So it's one thing to spend like 6 sessions getting them out of that, but another one to get somebody then starting with that big shift and then moving forward from there with much more purpose. So when we get this rapid transformation through the understanding, it builds trust and it develops empathy and it gains back time, money, and energy. Time that you're not wasting on being depressed, sitting around lost, feeling hopeless. You're going to get on with things again.
Yeah.
And then you're going to get more money because you're finding your purpose in life. You're gaining trust with other people. You're building connections. And your energy is just going to come back with it naturally. I know when I was in depression, I just wanted to sit on the sofa all day. If I could make a cup of coffee by the end of the day, I'd had a good day. You know, some days that's all I felt like I could do was go and make a cup of coffee. So definitely going to gain a lot of that back. And the emotional cycle diagram is just a fraction of what I do. And that is teaching how to see your emotional cycle. But the inner and the outer change, I've developed more frameworks around to understand that change much more in depth. But I really cannot put that into 3 hours. It's impossible. So when we look at emotions change because something changed, what was it? And so for me, what changed? It helps. It helps to look at that. But the helps is actually the acronym. When I realized that, like looking at emotions in 5 colors, there are also only 5 things in the whole world that can change when we simplify it and categorize it. So if you can imagine thinking, okay, so something's changed, what changed? And only having 5 choices to begin thinking about, it's a lot less overwhelming than the millions of potential possibilities of change in our world.
Yeah.
And then the third part is recognizing that everything that changes has a root cause to it. Like, for example, a change in your car might be you get a flat tire. That was the change. What changed was the flat tire. The air has come out. But why did the air come out? Did the valve come loose? Did it get a nail in it? Did somebody slash the tire? Is the tire worn out? So it's getting to the root cause, because without finding the root cause and then fixing the tire according to that, because if it's just the valve come a bit loose, you can pump it up and put the cap back on.
Yeah.
But if the tire is completely worn, you might have to go and change it. So knowing the root cause is important to making the change, to bringing things back to where they were before. So this whole process is powerful in itself as well. But even on its own, the emotional cycle diagram will certainly have you thinking a lot differently about your emotions, knowing what you've learned today. And you've done really well. Really, really well. So yeah, absolutely brilliant.
Thank
So
you.
How I help with this is books, journals at home, courses online, and I can do the one-to-one like I'm doing with you. But I'm also looking to get into training and schools and into workplaces to teach this to leaders and teachers and therapists so they can help other people, because I want this to go wider. And then I can also, if it's dealing with organizations on a bigger scale, I can create bespoke courses and videos. And because you've paid privately today for a workshop that's normally the public one, I'm going to do that for you as well and create this bespoke video session, little course for you at the end with some notes and things from what we've taken today.
Thank you.
So at the end of all that, this was a happy outcome for us. Nice, happy smiles. My son supporting me on the day I did my TEDx talk. After everything he'd gone through, yeah, we turned him around, bless him. He came out happy. Lovely lad now. Couldn't think better of him. And for somebody who then was shut off and hidden and closed in, he now works front of house in a coffee shop. He loves serving customers. And very much like the night we sat over a cup of coffee, talking and offering that space to go through his emotions, he sees the value in people sitting enjoying a quality cup of tea or coffee over lunch. And he loves, he's training up as a barista. But he's been working for years. He's married, got a family. And honestly, I couldn't be more proud of him now. From where he was to where he is now has been a massive transformation. There's still work to do. But like everybody, we've all still got work to do, even me. So
Yeah,
thank you ever so much.
it's a constant change, isn't it? It's like it's a never-ending movement, isn't it?
Yeah. And that's the thing. Even when we get to happy and we're excited and like, yeah, and we celebrate and we're going party, nobody wants to stay there forever. So we do need to cycle through. We need to stop, think, reflect, and then go, plan, take action, go over to red, motivate, do something. So that's where we take action. And then after the action, we reward ourselves and celebrate. So we need to be cycling through here, but doing it with knowledge, construction, planning, motivation, action, taking the right steps. And that will naturally lift you up out of that lower space.
Yeah.
So thank you ever so much today.
Thank you.
Can I ask,
would you be really good?
Oh, thank you. Would you be happy to do a few minutes, just a quick review that I could clip out and share, just a review?
Yeah.
Because I don't want to do it if you don't want people to know you've done it. But yeah, if you're happy to do that, yeah, I'm going to spotlight you and let you do that then. Bear with me. Right, there we go. Thank you. Thank you ever so much for today as well. All right.
Hi, I'm Christiane. I just done Kay's course about emotional awareness, and it was an absolute eye-opener and really brilliant to see how where I am and how my emotions are playing in that wheel, and also how they're moving around in that wheel. I would because we're constantly changing. So I think what everybody should have a wheel like this and a K in their mind, so that they thinking exactly, oh yeah, yellow's there because that's where I'm now in the moment, and oh, maybe I'm a little bit in the back, but it might not actually all bad. Um, and I think that's what people forgetting. Not one thing is actually an actual quarter. It's sort of they overlay a bit, and yeah, I learned a lot. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. That was fantastic. Brilliant. No, I appreciate that. Thank you, Christiana. And honestly, thank you for today. And I'm so glad I could help you. And I would love to have a follow-up with you in a couple of weeks.
Definitely.
And see how you feel differently, or just anything you feel differently or feel shift in between. Drop me a note on WhatsApp and just go, oh,
Yeah.
if something recognizes. But definitely working on that inner talk. is a really, really good one. And I think when you do that and say that quote every day, I'd love it actually if you could photograph that for me, that yellow piece in particular, and just send me that on WhatsApp.
Yeah.
And I'll type that up into a nice document for you, like a mantra thing.
Yeah, I
And
would.
I do have to get onto my next meeting, but honestly,
Okay.
have you ever done tapping?
Yeah. Well, I done it once or twice and then I forgot about it.
Okay, so it perhaps didn't sit right with you.
I just it's like I just don't feel like it now. You know, it was
Mm.
more like that. It's not it should probably be one of my habits and getting through it in the morning, but it's yeah, it's just it never seemed that urgent on my list because probably also because I didn't really see anything where
Yeah.
I was oh wow, you know, that's really
So
made a difference.
what if I created one out of all of this today that was tailored to you?
Oh yeah, that would be brilliant.
And then you might find that the sayings actually sit with you and you
Yeah,
start to feel that shift. And some of the sayings might feel uncomfortable because you go through like what you've been stuck with, what you're changing, and how you want to feel in the future. So it kind of takes you through the
yeah,
stages. So some of the first parts of it may feel difficult, awkward, uncomfortable. But as you repeat it and repeat it, you start to feel actually that doesn't feel awkward anymore. Oh, I actually can, and rather than feeling I don't feel like that it's like, oh, I can see where I've learned that, or I've overcome that, or I've shifted and I've raised
yeah.
my energy. So I think it's
That
quite
sounds good.
powerful to
That's
do.
great.
But yeah, I'll see if I can create you one that will fit for you. And right, well, thank you ever so much.
Thank you.
And I really must go and pee before I've got 5 minutes for my next.
Yeah.
I've already messaged her and said I'll have to start 10 minutes late. But yeah, thank you ever so much and well done today.
Thank
And
you.
I am so looking forward to seeing the changes
Me too.
and the measurable parts of how this has come together. All right. See you later. So I won't be in Silvernet now because I've got this other meeting, but I'll
Yeah.
see you.
Okay, super.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.